Good morning. Thank you for accepting me. Appreciate.
Thank you, Louis. Thank you. We're waiting for Dr. Klute now.
Okay. Good morning, Sanere. I see Dr. Kutze sent me a message to say I must do the introductions and then we can continue, if you like.
Thank you, Louis. Yes, Louis, I think we can begin. Yasmin is still not here, but I think we can begin.
All right, then who will be able to continue with the current slides? I don't know how to operate that. It's not on my laptop, you know. Dr.
It is
Kutze,
being shared by Dr. Klute.
yeah, if she can if she can put the current slide on, then I will present. There we go. May I continue?
Apologies, I was just speaking to our other presenter, Miss Muller. She's just trying to get the link. Please continue, Louis.
Thank you, colleagues. Thank you, prospective architects and architectural professionals. Today we are going to cover the JBCC contract. I will start off presenting the JBCC contract. Then Yasmin will do the definitions and the payment certificate. There will be then a 10-minute break. We will then continue with the SANS regulations. Yasmin will present that as well. And then the role of SACAP, the CPD, we will do that after the SANS regulations. The categories of registrations and the identification of works will be done. There will be a 10-minute break after that. Then the recap on the fee proposals. And lastly, but not the least, question and answer session. Thank you, Dr. Kutze.
Thank you so much. Sorry, I see my numbering got confused on the PowerPoint. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2. Anyway, these things happen. Thank you so much. I'm going to stop sharing, and I think you can start. We've got enough attendees. Yes, we've got a good number. So thanks very much, Louis. Over to you.
Okay, thanks. Just a little bit of patience that I can just
Yeah, I'll let you
share.
know when we can see it correctly.
Okay, perfect. Let me just see where's my thing that I like to upload. It's on my inbox. It's on my desktop. Let's see, how will I be able to get that?
You need to open it. That's the best way. And then you go share screen, and then you choose that window. If you're on a not an Apple.
There we go. And then
We've got a hand there. Is that Zama? Is that you? No,
from
that must
beginning.
be
Yeah, it's Munetsi.
Hello, Venezia. Welcome.
I'm good. Now, I just said before you start, let me just answer some few questions that have been asked by candidate over the week.
Sure. No problem. Let's do that then first, Louis. So if you can just wait a few minutes, then
Okay, I'll do.
Thank you, Venezia.
Okay. So the first one was the issue of paper 2 open book. They were asking whether they can go using the guide. Yes, it's a guide. It's there on the internet. It's all over. They can have it in both. It's an open book, so they can make use of that. The second question that we received quite a number of queries is why about the second gadget having their start material on a laptop. No. Yes, we used to allow people to have second laptop with notes, but we have learned that people when they declare, yes, they say the second laptop is off, but they were actually copying using a second laptop, and then they can Google as the exam progresses. So there is no material that it will be required or allowed to be in the exam room on a device. Unfortunately, no. You have to print that whatever material that you want to use it must be a printed material, not on a laptop. Please, not even on your phone. Then the third question there was the issue of second cameras. You are required to have second cameras, the one that will face your work area. So your work area, we want to see your keyboard, we want to see your screen. So they were saying, how should the second camera be positioned? We want to see your keyboard, we want to see your screen. Yeah, and we don't want to see your face, like your forehead. The moment we see your forehead, we know that you are using one camera. So a second camera, it must be positioned at either your right or your left, at an elevation whereby we can actually see your face, your side face, or your cheek. But we need to see your keyboard. We need to see your screen, what you are typing. That's what we want to see. The moment we see your face, which means we are not able to see your keyboard. Those are the three areas that I wanted to clarify. Thank you, Chair, and you can proceed.
Good. Chair, can you guys see my screen?
No, not
Not
yet.
yet.
No.
Okay.
Press the green screen share button.
Now I must look for the share button. Sorry that I'm a little bit
It's on the bar at the bottom.
at the
So green
bottom.
button, share.
Is that the one? No, I don't know. Let me go out here. We start again. Let me
It's on
close.
your Zoom bar at the bottom, Louis.
Okay.
Next to raise hand or Q&A. That's how it is on mine. So the same area where you would put your mic or your video on.
Okay. Yes.
Over along, there's a green button. Just find that one.
Yeah. I think let me see. Yeah, again. Yes, I was at the share. There's a share one. Yes, and I actually did it before, and then
Okay,
I must
press that, and then you just need to find your PowerPoint, or you
okay.
just share the whole screen and then you go towards the. You did it last week.
Yes, I did. Yeah. Let me see. Maybe I found it in documents here. No, it's not here. It's on the desktop, and it is. There we go. 11 today. Let's hope
We're
it
still not
opens.
seeing your screen, Louis. That's the only thing that worries me. Well, let's go. Let's see if you've now pressed that, if that shares then.
Slideshow from beginning. Is it visible?
No, I don't think you're doing it right.
Okay, let me go out here again.
You have to press the share button. Once you press the share button, it comes up with a white screen. It's a select a window or an application you want to share. So you can
Yes,
go to, and then you go to your application one. There, go. You
all
found
right.
it. Perfect. Thank you. Technology is not your friend this morning. Sorry, candidates. A little bit of humor for you to laugh at us. Thank you, Louis.
And now we can say share a new, not a new slide.
Now go to slide to view.
There we go. Slideshow from beginning.
Yes, perfect.
There we
Thank
go.
you so much.
Happiness is. Thanks for having patience with me this morning. Good morning, candidates. Today it's 12 today. We are going to deal with the JBCC contract. So we did the welcome and introduction already. The second step is the JBCC contract. Then there will be an introduction to the payment certificate because Yasmin is going to then delve into more depth in the payment certificate. So first, let's unpack some of the definitions and the interpretations found in the JBCC contract. And the name of the JBCC is the Joint Building Contracts Committee, Principal Building Agreement. So in short, JBCC PBA. Let's have an example. Let's have a look at an example of a definition with its corresponding interpretations. The agent is the first definition that one has to know. It's an entity appointed by the employer to deal with specific aspects of the works. So you can see the employer and the works are highlighted in red. So we will go into the next definition of employer and works just now. There we go. There we go. So we can see that the employer is an entity appointed by the employer to deal with the specific aspects of the work. And the agent is the one that is employed. And you can see works consist of a number of items: contracts, agreement, contract instructions, free issue materials and goods, and the employer. And the parties that's part of the contract is the contractor, you can see, and other parties as well. So the definitions and interpretations, we will look at the following: agreement. What is calendar days? What is a certificate of final completion? Certificate of practical completion? Contract sum, contract value, the contractor, employer, free issue, and guarantee for advance payment. So the first, you will see in the examination paper, this is some typical questions that's been asked before, provide the interpretation for the following definitions, and those that I just mentioned as well. So agreement is an entity appointed by the employer to deal with the specific aspects. Calendar days, 24-hour days commencing at midnight. Certificate of final completion, a certificate issued by the principal agent to the contractor. Certificate of practical completion, certificate issued by the principal agent to the contractor with a copy to the employer, stating the date on which practical completion of the work or of a section thereof was achieved. Contract sum, the accepted tender amount, inclusive of tax, not subject to adjustment. That not subject to adjustment, very important. It must be, everything must be written down and must be negotiated. Contract value, it's a monetary value, initially equal to the contract sum, subject to adjustment in terms of this agreement. Contractor is a party contracting with the employer for the execution of the works. The employer is a party contracting with the contractor. Free issue, materials and goods provided at no cost. Guarantee for advance payment, a security in terms of the JBCC guarantee for advance payment form, obtained by the contractor from an institution approved by the employer. The next portion that we have a look at is the summary of contract law. Contract law is the law that binds agreements and transactions, ensuring that promises are kept and disputes find resolution. It's based on clarity, perception, and an understanding of legal principles. And that is what contract law comprises of. And the JBCC falls under the broad term contract law. Last week, I showed you the layout of the Joburg City Council from the onset up to the plan approval and the plan submitted to council. That is now section 1 to 4.1. Then now this happens now, the JBCC contract occurs after the plans has been submitted to council and approved. So that's why I have approval there at the bottom. So you can now see that plan approval was the first thing, and then we will go to the next phase, and that is now the tender phase and the construction. So obviously there need to be tenders to compare prices and services, and then the owner will decide on who he or she will appoint, and that is the tender process now. So when the project reaches the construction phase, it is at this point where the JBCC PPA is now signed between the employer and the contractor, and it comes to effect. And that is called the whole project. That's from section 5 onwards. So you can see the law of contracts is applicable here. You get a variety types of contracts, but we will focus on the JBCC agreement. Very, very comprehensive, very good agreement as well. So why do we choose the JBCC agreement? It provides a clear framework for managing the construction. It reduces the risks of disputes and misunderstandings between the parties. And it also allows for the project to be completed timeously and within budget. Now, just to focus on the timeously and within budget, if you're a big contractor and a big, there's normally a consortium of stakeholders that start a big complex, but they need to know when the contract will be done and when the occupancy certificate can be issued. So, and that we do by means of a Gantt card and PERT charts, so that we can also see that it must be within budget, so that they can in advance advertise and rent out the complex, the individual rooms in the complex, or the flats, or when it comes to a big shopping center, the actual shopping center, so that they can secure that before the time. So they need to know the time limit when it must be done. And the same with the contractor. They need to know when they must finish. And this is the whole thing of contract law and of project management, that we monitor the progress as and through the process, so that people, tenants, know when they can start renting and when they can move in. And that's why we have a contract. The contract has stipulations. So you can see the employer appoints the architectural professional, and then there's a professional team, and there's a contractor. So the architectural professional in this case is then the agent. So when the project reaches construction phase, the architectural professions encounter other parties that will be included in the project. These parties include, amongst others, the employer, the contractor, and the professional team. So what is a contract? What is the purpose of a contract? And what makes a contract valid? So it's a realm where clarity, precision, and an understanding of legal principles are vital. Very important, the legal principles. It's a legally binding agreement between two or more parties, outlining their rights and obligations regarding a particular transaction or arrangements. So everyone has rights, but they also have obligations, and that is now taken up in a contract. What is the purpose of the contract? Is to establish a legally enforceable agreement between parties, defining their rights, duties, expectations regarding a specific transaction or arrangement for the duration of the contract. So it must be enforceable. So if everything do not go according to plan, then there is the option to enforce it. What makes a contract valid? The first point is consensus, offer and acceptance. So in the legal field, we talk about there must be agreement of their minds. So in their minds, they agree, and they then thereby reach consensus. There must be contractual capacity. And as we know, in South Africa, if the parties must be of a legal age, 18 years old, or if they're between 7 and 18 years old, they must be assisted by a legal guardian. And they must also have a sound mind, stable mentality. Now, this is all things that when we stand in court, we argue on this basis. Was there consensus reached between the parties? Is the one party stable mentally stable, etc., etc.? And the same goes with if you sign a lease agreement, if you want to sign a anti-nuptial contract, all of these things, even in your will, the person who make a will must be mentally stable. Otherwise, the will is invalid. Legality. Is it legal in terms of the law? And I can dwell on this part as well. It must be a legal contract. It can't be, you can't sell drugs to somebody or marijuana or that type of thing, because that's illegal. So there must be a legal principle. Possibility. Can it be carried out? Do you sign this agreement with a builder that do not have machinery and equipment and staff? So it's not possible for this builder or the contractor to continue with this contract. Does he have enough money in his bank account? And that is where vetting comes to play as well. There's a lot of things that must be scrutinized before the time to see if is it possible for this person to carry out this contract. Formalities. Is it a written contract? It must be written. As I said last week, if it's not written, it is not said. So it must be written. So if you meet these requirements, then this will ensure that the contract is valid and legally enforceable. When an offer is made and a party accepts the offer as it is, we have now entered into a serious legal agreement, and it constitutes a contract. However, if it does not occur, and the party provides an alternative to the offer for the initiator to consider, then we call it a counter offer. You purchase a car, you wish to purchase a car, now you negotiate on the price, and eventually when you reach a consensus on the counter offer, then a contract occurs. Once a counter offer is accepted, the previous offer is null and void, and then the new counter offer is now accepted. So what's the laws of agency? What is a cession? And what are the remedies? And what is the laws of delict? So what are the laws of the agency? Contracts often resemble a complex board game with various players taking on different roles. So the laws of agency act as the rule book, specifying who the players are, what moves they can make, how they can interact, and it's a key to understanding the rules of a board game where each player's role is well defined. A contractor, an architect or an engineer, for example, can take on a role other than their title during the construction project. It is typical for architects to take on the role of principal agent in a construction project, whose role is to administer the contract. So what happens is, and this is where entrepreneurship comes in as well, you draw the plan for the client, and then the client says now they want to continue and they want to build it, and then you can put up your hand to say, you can also now that your job is finished from stage 1 to stage 4.1, the plans has been approved, and the building can commence. You are able to, because you have done project management before, to become the principal agent that acts on behalf of the owner and liaise with the contractor. And then you draw up the Gantt charts and the PERT charts, and then you do the project management on that specific contract. So this expands your role in a sense, and you take on another role. A session, what is a session? Consider a relay race where runners pass a baton to their teammates. So in the world of contracts, the session is akin to smoothly transferring the baton of the responsibility from one party to the other. It ensures that the contract momentum continues seamlessly, much like a relay team maintaining its speed during the handover. So in the event of a changeover from one professional to the next, the session allows the termination of responsibility from one party to another. This often happens when professionals either wish to terminate their contracts to move on to other projects, or in a case where there are irreconcilable differences between the various parties involved in the contract, leading to one deciding to leave. Now, we see that in the building industry very often, that the contractor run out of steam, run out of money. They do not finish in advance, and then there must be a new one to be appointed. But it's a seamless process. We just continue. Now, think of a contract as a story where there's possible plot twists. When something goes wrong, and then the remedies available act as tools to resolve conflicts and get the story back on track so that we can finish the project. There's maybe circumstances where the plot twists that keep the story engaging, offering different ways to address conflicts and uncertainties. So imagine contracts as a tightrope walking, where parties carefully balance their interests. However, sometimes they may stumble, resulting in harm. The laws of delict, then, act as a safety net beneath the tightrope, providing recourse when parties fall. So it's a safety mechanism to address unexpected mishaps. What are the laws of agency? What is a session? What's the remedies? And what's the law of delict? I think we answered most of those. So in most cases, at least two parties, as a summary now, that enter into a contract, into a binding contract where one party make an offer and the other party accepts it, then it becomes a legal contract. So they must be legally able to enter the contract, and they must agree. As I said earlier on, the minds must agree on what's being exchanged and why. All the actions must be conducted in writing. Contract disputes and disagreements is obviously another thing that we have to consider between the parties to a contract. This occurs when one party fails to fulfill their obligations. Then there's a disagreement. Or when the parties disagree over the meaning of the contractual term, and then it's good that one clarify this before the time. Also, the meaning of the obligations and the rights outlined in the contractual arrangement. That is why a contract must be very simple and must be understandable and must be clarified before the time. So the contractor has a legal obligation stemming from their contractual obligation to fulfill the duties towards an employer, whether they do a turnkey project or whether there is a guy that only do the brickwork and somebody else that will do the plumbing and another person doing the roofing. So it depends on the contractual obligation to fulfill their duties toward the employer. So you can see this is irrespective of the treatment between the two parties. And it must be done. The intellectual duty is to complete the work or provide the services outlined in the contract to the agreed upon standards. And this is where SANS 10,400 comes in. There's agreed upon standards in the contract within the specified time frame. And this is where the project management and PERT charts and Gantt charts comes in. And for the agreed upon compensation, payment certificates. You can see the whole process now. So there's a contract that must be fulfilled by the contractor according to specific standards and in an agreed upon time frame. And then there's payment, as it is planned in terms of the payment certificates. In a JBCC contract, there's three primary parties: employer, the principal agent, and the contractor. You can see the principal agent is typically, could be typically your architect or the architectural professional. It can also be an engineer. You can put a different hat on the moment you You've done your first portion. That is now when the plans is approved and all that. And that's a principal agent. Consensus, as we said earlier on, the parties must agree in their minds. Contractual capacity, older than 18 years old, or be assisted by a guardian, a legal guardian. Legality, the contract must be legal. Possibility, it must be possible for both parties to perform. The one must have the money, the other one must have the skills and all the machinery and all the staff. Formalities, the contract must be reduced to some visible form as required or prescribed in writing. So there's just an indication where the principal agent, the architectural professional, is in the middle, and he's between the employer and the contractor, and he manages the whole process through project management. Ladies and gentlemen, another typical exam question. You can see what is a contract? What is the purpose of a contract? What makes a contract valid? You can see it's not difficult questions. It is, now that we explained it all, I suppose it will be easy to answer even these questions. What does the following have in common? Advise, appoint, authorize, certify, consent, decide, designate. You need to know all of these definitions. And which of the following is not a requirement that must be met for a contract to give rise to a legal obligation? Consensus, repudiation, contractual capacity, legality, possibility. The answers is on next page. Contract, legally binding agreement between two or more parties, as we indicated. Purpose of a contract, to make a clear legally binding agreement between the parties. What makes a contract valid? It's an offer by the one party, acceptance of that offer by the other party. Must be in writing to be enforceable, serve as a foundation for commercial transactions, and provide a framework for parties to manage their relationships and resolve disputes. I told you about the case I'm busy with between the high school and a contractor. It wasn't in writing. Now it's not enforceable. And now they need to settle, a settlement type of agreement that they need to reach because it was verbal. So all the stipulations was not there. What does the following have in common? Advise, appoint, authorize, certify, consent, decide, designate, instruct, issue, notify, object, reply, request, and specify. They must be conducted in writing. Which of the following is not a requirement that must be met for a contract to give rise to a legal obligation? Consensus, repudiation, contractual capacity, legality, and possibility. You can see the consensus is a legal requirement. The contractual capacity, you must be older than 18 years old or be assisted by a legal guardian, is there. Legality, it must be a legal contract in terms of the South African law. Possibility is there. So the only one that is not there is repudiation. The next portion is the scenarios approach. Who did it? In other words, if anything goes wrong, who is the guilty party? So you can see there is the three actors. The one is a contractor, the one is the employer, and in between is a principal agent. Sorry about the spelling mistake there. You can also see the tick marks and the crosses. One has to decide between all of those who is the one that didn't do their obligations. So contracts and scenario questions can be daunting for candidates writing the PPE because you must now find out where is the problem and you must go to the root of the problem. This diagram indicates an approach to take when thinking about a scenario, because you will have scenario questions in the examinations as well. Looking at cases where the employer has caused a breach, indicated by the cross, or where the employer is able to claim his rights, indicated by a tick. And what does the JBCC say about each one of those? So you must understand the foundation of the contract is the premise. including those governed by the JBCC. It revolves around the concepts of rights and responsibilities. Then you must identify the scenario. What happened there? Is there a breach of a contract? Is there a dispute over terms? Or is there any other contractual issue? Then you must, the third step you must do is you must analyze the rights. Determine whose rights has been violated. It could be the rights of the employer of the client, the contractor. It could be the subcontractors or any other involved parties outlined in the contract documents. And then you must finally look at assessing the responsibilities. Identify whose responsibility it is to rectify the situation or address the issue at hand. It could be an easy one, but it might be a difficult one as well. So you can have a look at the scenario approach, the base method, draw on your resources, reference contract, and develop argument. So what happened? Clearly articulate the details of the incident. Then whose rights were violated? Which party's rights? And whose responsibility is it to fix it? Identify the party or parties responsible. So let's break it down. When you are faced with a tricky situation, you've got three powerful tools to your disposal. Common sense, because you have experience as well now in the contractual arena, and the nitty-gritty details of the contract, like the JBCC, all in the fine print. So first of all, you must trust your gut, and that is now where the common sense comes in. Think logically, use your practical sense, and imagine you're sorting out a mess and with a clear head. That is common sense at work. Next, think back to your own experiences. Remember the times that you've dealt with similar issues before, and those lessons can guide you as well. Then dive into the contract. Have a look at the contractual stipulations and use it as a roadmap to navigate the situation. By blending all of these now, your wisdoms, your insights, your past know-how, your gut, and the fine print, you will be armed with everything you need to tackle the problem head on. We will look at some scenarios, then it will make more sense to you. So the next thing that you need to have a look at, according to the contract, in a clause number, and this is where the legal jargon comes in, you need to specify the clause number and the scenario and what player, what player's rights has been violated and must be remedied by another player. Think how this will be done. And in conclusion, you can summarize all of this into one sentence, I believe it is. So get the full picture. Identify the problem. Think critically. Make your own point clear. Back yourself up by means of evidence to support your argument. Consider other options. Think out of the box. Think about what other people might say against your argument. Be ready to respond to their points and show why you think your argument is better. So let's look at the different scenarios. Now, one could be late payment. A contract that continued with the job, they finished it now, there's a payment certificate, and now the people do not get paid, but yet they, all the workers must be paid on the Friday. The contractor did not complete the works on time. So now there was rain that halted the process. So they couldn't build properly. You normally you say it's 1,000 bricks per day. 2 or 3 guys, they are able to complete that when it is ground level. If it's obviously if they have to stand on trestles, it will take a little while longer, less bricks per day. So the contractor now didn't complete the works on time. That's a problem. How will you manage that? The contractor didn't arrive on the site. It might be another scenario. There's people waiting, other contractors waiting for him, but he didn't arrive on the site. There was other circumstances. The client is unhappy with the quality of work. How will you deal with that? the plans was not submitted to the council, or the plans is in breach of municipal code. What will you do with regards to that? The site has, you're on the site, the plans has been approved, and now the site has underlying rock conditions providing it difficult to build. What will you do in that process? The terrain is not suitable for building. There might be a scenario like that. The snags picked up on the site. There's a delictual duty possibly. There's defects and liabilities. So there is some different scenarios. There might be even more, but that is the typical scenarios that one find on in a building project. So let's have a look at the exam paper. The scenario example, you will see in the examination, there will be a scenario that is now outlined, and you need to identify where the problem is. Remember, this is all fictitious examples, not like the real case I'm busy with. In terms of the JBCC building agreement, the principal contractor is entitled to a revision of the date to practical completion in certain circumstances, and also entitled to an adjustment of the contract sum. What would be the position with regards to the above is in the following four circumstances. Assume the contractor has fully complied with the requirements for making such claims. Give full reasons for your answer. The first scenario is the work has been stopped 4 working days by heavy rains, where the principal agent considers not to be unusual for this time of year. So what will you do there? Number B, work on the critical path of the program is delayed because the contractor did not receive steel bending schedules from the structural engineer. So the engineer's response was that the contractor did not provide him with a program or request for the supply of information. Typical example as well. A third example, a nominated subcontractor delays the progress of the works because the timber built in units which he manufactured in his factory were destroyed by a fire at his factory and had to be remanufactured. What will you do in that scenario? And the last one, work is delayed for 7 days because of the employer did not timely pay local authority for the water connection for the supply of water to the works. Typical scenarios, things that can go wrong. Now the answers, let's have a look at the first one again. Work has been stopped because of heavy rains. So the answer, the contractor is entitled to a revision of the date of practical completion without adjusting the contract value in terms of clause 23.1.1. Now you can see here we are very specific. We know that all the clauses, because the JBCC contract have various clauses, and this is the applicable clause 23.1.1. The fact that the principal agent considered the rain not to be unusual is irrelevant. The contract is entitled to delays caused by any incitement weather, not just exceptionally increment weather. And this is where project management and Gantt charts and PERT charts comes into play. One, obviously, if you're the agent and managing the contract, you plan for such events, and it happens. But that's why we say you build in a little bit of fat, but you build in a little bit of time for in case there is something to this effect. And you know already what is the scenario over the years of rain in a specific season, so that you can plan accordingly. The second part here, work on the critical path is delayed because the contractor did not receive steel. Okay, let's have a look there. Clause 23.2.5, very specific again, entitles the contractor to a revision of the date for practical completion for delay caused by failure to issue or the late issue of a contract instruction. All right. So, however, if the contractor does not request such instruction, he will not be entitled to this claim. So, very specific again, according to the clauses. Number C, a nominated subcontractor delays the progress of the works because of the timber built-up units, which was now destroyed. So, delay is not caused by any default of the subcontractor, but by event, and it was out of his control. So, there's again a clause. Clause 23.1.3, paragraph 6, he would be entitled to a revision of the date for practical completion. So you can see there's always remedies to this. And the last one, work is delayed for 7 days because the employer didn't pay the local authority. So it is the obligation of the contractor, not the employer, to arrange for a water connection for the water for the works. And that is now a clause in the JBCC contract, including paying therefore, and consequently the contractor is not entitled to a revision. So the position is different under the minor works agreement, where the employer may be required to arrange for the water connection. Depending on the contract that you sign, this will be included in there. Activity 3, this is also a typical exam question. You've been appointed by Jack Spratt as a principal agent to administer the JBCC Principal Building Agreement, edition 6.2, during stage 5 of the construction of a 15-story hotel. Remember, we told you stage 1 to 4.1 is until the council approved the plans. Now we are at stage 5 already. And stage 5 is where the JBCC contract comes in. In your own words, explain why you believe the JBCC Principal Building Agreement should be used. What are some of the principal agent's responsibilities during stage 5? And 3.3 is he indicated that he wants to make changes and expand the children playroom area in the gym area at the hotel. And then explain briefly to the client what would be required from the following affected parties to ensure that the changes are executed correctly and without any future issues. And then we list down the architect, principal agent, engineer, quantity surveyor, and contractor, which are all involved in the expansion of the children's playroom. So let's have a look at the answer. Yeah, you can see there's even more questions. Let's have a look at that. Acting on behalf of the governing body of a school, the head teacher, and recently architectural professional to provide a standard scope of architectural service for the construction of a student residential unit at the school. Due to the limited funds available to the project, it was agreed that the QS would not be appointed. Right. Then they get another construction company as a contractor for the project. And during the 3rd month of the construction, Mrs. Priceley contacted Mr. Young in a panic. The governing body has discovered that the amount certified and duly paid to the construction company over the first 2 months added up to a total of more than 70% of the contract sum. It was even though less than 15% of the construction works has been carried out. So you can see the importance of a QS, but what do you do in the scenario where you paid now 70%, but you only receive 15% of the completion of works? Right, and then there's another scenario question. Aside from the issuing of interim payment certificates, describe 2 further obligations of the principal agent. All right. And then 3.4.2, Mr. Young chose to ignore the potential risk faced on the project because he believed that the first 2 payment certificates were correct and he used the exact amounts claimed by the contractor. In terms of the JBCC, describe why Mr. Young was incorrect in his reasoning. All right, the answers. Let's go back to 3.1. You have been appointed by Jack Spratt to administer it. In your own words, explain why you believe the JBCC Principal Building Agreement should be used. Answer to that, it's a relatively simple agreement, ladies and gentlemen. It is ideally suitable for small to medium projects of short duration, where the work is not a very complex type of work. It also provides essentially for one agent to represent the employer, one completion phase and not multiple sections, a simplified subcontracted process where the principal contractor use only his own and known domestic subcontractors and no other subcontractors, and no contract price adjustments, but a fixed contract price. So it's another benefit. Right, and 3.2, what are some of the principal agent's responsibilities during stage 5? To administer the building contract, to give possession of the site to the contractor, to issue construction documentation. You can see now 3.3, this question was explain briefly to the client what would be required from the following affected parties, and then to make sure that there's now expansion of the children's playroom, and we highlighted the architect, principal agent, engineer, quantity surveyor, and contractor. Answer to that is the architect will design and draw the plans to indicate the changes. Very, very simple one. That was very easy to answer. The principal agent, as the agent between all the parties, he must now liaise with the parties to say, we are going to not build this one wall here, but we will expand it now. We will that will be delayed for later stage. So he must now negotiate and liaise with all parties, because now the annex is now going to enlarge. It will be bigger. The engineer need to now check the structural components together with its changes. If it's wider, then obviously the roof trusses need to be redesigned. That type of thing. If there's dolomite in that area, then the structural engineer need to build in additional support and seal and that type of thing. The contractor surveyor, the quantity surveyor need to now recalculate the building material quantities because it will increase. And the contractor must tell us, it will determine the additional time so that we can build it into our Gantt chart. Right, 3.4.1. Aside from issuing the interim payment certificates, describe 2 further obligations of the principal agent as part of the JBCC agreement. 3.4.1. Any 2 of the following: administration, inspections and instructions, and where the final completion has been achieved, the principal agents issues the certificate of final completion, which defines that the contractor's obligations has been fulfilled, other than for latent defects. So you can see, so there's administration. In administrating the contracts, the principal agent performs certain of the employer's contractual obligations. All right, inspections and instructions, it speaks for itself, and final completion. Then 3.4.2, Mr. Young chose to ignore the potential risks faced on the project because he believed that the first 2 payment certificates were correct, and he issued the exact amounts claimed by the contractor in terms of the JBCC building agreement. Describe why Mr. Young was incorrect in his reasoning. 3.4.2. Let's apply our formula to this question and create a more robust answer, which is logical, comes from the JBCC as a source, and references it. At a new construction project, there is an employer, an architect, and a contractor who have undertaken the JBCC building agreement. The contractor claims for the work that he has not yet completed and has violated the contract by claiming payment from the employer. Additionally, the principal agent was negligent in his duty due to his inexperience and allowed these payments to be made. So you can see who is the guilty parties here. So the rights of the employer has been breached, and therefore it is the responsibility of the contractor to remedy the situation. The principal agent will step in to mediate the situation. Now, according to the clause 12 of the JBCC, it's a duty of the contractor to hold onto the terms of the agreement. You can see the importance of the JBCC in writing. To mitigate the impact, the principal agent may mediate between the two parties to remedy the situation. He is required to conduct his due diligence, as stated in the JBCC contract, and inspect the existing work to assess the extent of impact it has on the project. Timelines will need to be revised and discussed with the employer. The works will need to be inspected, and the contractor's contract may be terminated according to clauses 28 and 29. Additionally, to prevent this from occurring in the future, the principal agent would need to prepare and issue the final account to the contractor within 90 days of final completion. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes my portion of the JBCC contract. In conclusion, you will note that the contract must be in writing. It must be a legal contract. The parties to the contract must be legal, at the legal age. As I said, it must be in writing. And then everyone have rights and obligations to complete the job, the work to be done. And there can be remedies and delictual aspects to that as well. Yasmin is going to do the payment certificate. Payment certificate, a crucial part of the JBCC contract, because payment then occurs at the end or at regular intervals, as she will indicate. So clause 25 of the JBCC contract document, very critical section, deals with payments with a construction project. It outlines the procedures and requirements for processing payments to the contractor during the project. The next section will delve deeper into the specifics of clause 25, focusing on the payment certificates, crucial component of the payment process. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for having me, and good luck with the examinations. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Louis. We are going to, I think your presentation was really informative. All the examples, example questions, and the scenarios have been explained very well. So I saw there are people asking in the chat if the recording will be made available. Yes, it will be. It will be shared from SACAP's side. We are going to have a quick break because I think all of you just need to get some water, just stand up and walk around before we continue. So a 10-minute break. We'll start again at 10:10, and then Yasmin will be running through her section. She can explain. I think she's made some little changes to how she's presenting. So I'm going to leave her to explain that. Thank you very much, Louis.
Thank you, Doc.
Spanetta, do you want to just pause the recording so that there's not these long breaks between? Thank you.
Hi all. I'm just testing my mic. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Welcome everybody. Welcome panelists and candidates to today's session. I'm going to be sharing my screen soon. So.
Just while you're getting ready, I just wanted to clarify also, there was a question on, are we doing only paper 1 or only paper 2? We're combining it. So we started today with paper 2. Last week was also a combination, and we'll slowly move into paper 1 items.
Yes. So how I have my slide today is I'm starting off with paper 2, and I'm going to do a brief overview of SANS, which is a part of paper 1 as well. So that's what I'm going to do. What Mr. Clote, what Louis has done previously was mostly on paper 2, but like it always interchanges. Like you can't just separate the two also. So you have to have a brief understanding of both sides for both of the papers. So it's not like you just singular out certain aspects for paper 2 and certain ones for paper 1. Our field is such that everything is intertwined. So you have to have a brief understanding of everything for both papers, basically. Can I begin?
Yes, please start.
All right. Everybody can see my screen. I'm just checking.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. So for our contents, today is day 2. Last week there was a presentation for day 1. So I'm starting off with payment certificates, and then I'm going to go on to the SANS 10400 for just a quick brief overview on that. So payment certificates, before we begin, if candidates do have their payment certificates with them, it'll be helpful to just hold it in your hand. But sometimes seeing something on the screen and seeing something physically in your hand is two different things. So you can also go through it with me. If you have a pencil or something, you can write on it, make comments, and make your own notes, so you have a better understanding. So all those who are but not 100% on understanding how payment certificate works, pay close attention to this this session. So before I go into the payment certificates, we take the payment certificate from the JBCC, and the JBCC starts off with definitions. So there's a whole lot of definitions. I just singled out a few of them. So for example, budgetary allowance. So what is budgetary allowance? And I got a definition next to it: an amount included in the contract sum for works intended for execution by the contractor, the extent of which is identified but not detailed. Then another definition, certificate of final completion, a certificate issued by the principal agent to the contractor with a copy to the employer stating the date on which final completion of the works or a section thereof was achieved. And construction equipment, there's a definition for that, as well as default interest. Now, I want to just bring to your attention that because paper 2 is an open book, uh, when you're writing, if there is such a thing as provide definitions or explain this definition, take the word from the uh, from your JBCC contract, because it is an open book. You have it in front of you, so write it down. You don't know where about your marks are going to be allocated to, unless it's specifically saying and telling you in your own words, explain. That's the only time you are not going to take out information from the JBCC as per it being direct words, and then you're going to turn it into your own words. So also read your instructions very, very carefully of your paper and then follow through. On a side note, SACAP always has all notices and everything coming out, and we have to also know what's happening in our industry. So it'll be really helpful to actually go through the SACAP websites and just find out what is the latest things that's happening in our industry. For example, the latest one was architectural mobility, which I think is really cool that they're trying to link us up with UK, Canada, America, and broadening our scope, basically. So just look into that as well. So we're going to go now into the JBCC contract document, right? So the JBCC contract document has a clause 25, and that has got to do with payments and payment certificate. So it is a critical section that deals with payments within the construction project. It outlines the procedures and requirements for processing payments to the contractor during the course of the project. So this is an example of a payment certificate. On the left-hand side of your screen, you'll see payment certificate, and on the right-hand side, you'll see a recovery statement. So a payment certificate is made up of different sections, and the recovery statement as well. So if you do have a payment certificate in front of you, just go through it, have a quick squiz. There's a lot of information there. There's a lot of these tables that can look formidable, but I promise you it is not. Once you understand it, it's quite simple. So payment certificate breakdown. So the payment certificate plays a vital role in documenting and verifying the amounts payable to the contractor for works done, variations, and other associated costs. The certificate must contain all the data necessary for the accurate documentation of the project cost. So the payment certificate basically is your bank card. It is a very important document. It will be you're dealing with a whole lot of money when you are dealing with your payment certificate, right? So payment certificates follow a standard template with a header, a body, and a footer. So I'm going to take you through those sections. So as you see here, the header contains the certificate and project information. So this is your header here. So it has details of your employer, your contractor, what is the works, and where is the site. And at the top right hand corner, it says certificate number. And is this an interim or a final certificate? So this is some information that will be required to be filled in. Then the body also contains information. The body has valuation dates, issue date, payment due date. So valuation date is important, issue date is important, payment due date as well. This is also that you must make note that VAT is you have to make sure whether VAT is included or excluded when you are reading your questions, because at this when you're filling out all this information, for example, value of work executed today, all of this information is excluding VAT. Remember that. Only at certain points will we then be adding on our VAT, meaning our tax at certain points. So in the beginning stages, all of like items number 1.0, 2.1, 2.2, all of these items are all excluding VAT. Also, we have to try and look at the type of security that is being selected. So we have a difference between a fixed construction guarantee and a variable construction guarantee. And that lies in the level of certainty provided regarding the project cost and completion date. Fixed guarantees offer a clear, predetermined cost and timeline, while variable guarantees allow for adjustments based on changing circumstances during the construction process. So that's just a little brief thing between the two types of guarantees. So that would be under 4.0 security adjustments applicable. And in the scenario questions, they will always tell you whether it's fixed or it's a variable. Then we go into the footer. So this is right at the bottom of your payment certificate. It's where the name and the address of the principal agent's practice is, the signature of the principal agent, and the date. Now this date here at the bottom of the footer and the date of the issue date needs to always match, right? So that is just something to bring to your attention. Right, so let's go through how to complete a payment certificate. All amounts are benchmarked and made with reference to the contract sum or the initial expected amount for the project. The payment certificate thus documents what the initial expected amount for the project was, how far the project has progressed relating to it, and what events has occurred, and what financial implications are on it. And perhaps most importantly, how close or have we struck to the initial expected amount. Thus, tracing of monetary flows in the project from the employer to the contractor and vice versa. Keep a clear and accurate record of any changes in the construction project and how this may impact the initial expected amount together with projected timelines. So the use of a payment certificate, basically it's there to keep track of all the above data, where an adjustment may be made due to lack of resources, funds, or activity on any party side may result in either financial expenses or delay in timelines. The most important timelines often referred to is the date of practical completion and the site handover. So this date of practical completion and site handover must be monitored carefully. Okay, so we're going to look here at this first column, right? It's highlighted in red, as you can see, column A, contract sum. So according to the JBCC guide, the completion and payment the contract sum is the agreement remains fixed for the duration of the contract. So you started off a new contract, and for example, it's a hotel, and they said renovations to this hotel is going to be 25 million rands. That is your contract sum. That is what you wrote in your agreement, and that is what is the fixed amount for the entire duration of this contract. There we have B, current contract value. So according to the JBCC guide, the totals of column A and B give an immediate comparison between the contract sum and contract value at the time of issue of the payment certificate. The quantity surveyor where appointed determines the adjustments to the contract value for approval by the principal agent. The current value of the contract that has been adjusted based on events which occurred during the construction phases. So like I said, the initial one, you had all your plans, everything ready, and it all came up to 25 million. However, now just say the client wants to change the taps from a Chinese brand to a superior brand, and there's going to be a change in obviously monetary value, which then will implicate your initial contract sum. So that will be an adjustment to the contract value, which then will go into the current contract value, making an adjustment. For in this scenario, it will be an addition. So now your contract value has now increased. So then we have the next column, which is a current valuation. According to the JBCC guide, the principal agent or the quantity surveyor determines the valuation. So the current valuation for the works executed in the passing stage. So what was the current valuation of the past works? This information is now going to be put in here. So go on. And then the D, current certification. This is a certification now we are currently dealing with. And according to the guide, the principal agent certifies the current valuation, amounts, items of expenses, and or losses detailed in the recovery statement, as well as tax on the applicable items. The amount certified for current payment. So this current payment is for this issue that is going out, what has been the expenses, what has been the additions or losses on the project. So we're going to take out all of that information from B and C, and then it's going to go into column D, and this is what our current certification is going to be. Okay, so let's go through a quick scenario. You are the principal agent of a construction project. The contractor has submitted a claim for payment, and you are required to issue a JBCC payment certificate. The details of the claim are as follows. So the following information is very important. If you are unsure about something, always just take a pen and highlight things that you feel is important and that is going to actually come out in your payment certificate. So things like employer, contractor, works. These are all things that are there. It is given to you. All you have to do now is go and put it in its correct spaces, right? So employer, contractor, works. Then you have site address. Where is the site allocated? Below that, there is a story now happening. So the story goes, the fifth valuation was done on the 7th of March, 2024 and sent to you, now you being the principal agent, on the 8th of March with a previous amount certified of 2 million plus. The payment certificate needs to be issued by the 11th of each month. So take note of the dates. Don't just get confused and just go with any date you see. You need to read, you need to understand this. So the payment certificate needs to be issued by the 11th of each month. and the payment date needs to be calculated. So when we calculate the payment date, it is 14 calendar days after your issue date. From the date of issue, you count 14 calendar days, and that's how you're going to calculate your payment date that needs to be paid by. So then we have the contract sum. Again, this is all data that is given to you. There's no magic happening here right now. It is there for you. So contract sum 4 million plus, value of works executed 3.2 million. I mean, sorry, 3. So sorry, 4,168,000. A value of works executed 3,200. Materials and good on site 100,000. Materials and good off site 20,000. So materials and goods on site, materials and goods off site. A security selected is cap adjustment was not selected. Contract price adjustment provisions. The tender price is fixed. Authorized adjustments to contract value due to CIs. So they're telling you here now something in the story that there has been an adjustment to the contract value in accordance to 60,000. Cost fluctuations is 0. And now we are saying fill in, the payment certificate provided. So let's go through the payment certificate. Again, that data was already given to you. It's there in black and white. All you have to do is put it into its allocated place. So who was the employer? Let's go back. The EM distributors. Who was the contractor? Can Do Construction. Who was the work? What was the works industrial warehouse? And what is the site address? ERF 856 Richmond Park, Cape Town. Right? So that all information comes in there. However, can you see at the top right, it says certificate number and interim of fix. So what was our certificate number? Let's go back and have a quick quiz. Our certificate number is number 5. So we're going to be putting it in there, and it is an interim. It is not our final. We are still busy with the project, so we are going through. Now, here at the bottom, we have, let me see if I can't move this thing. Okay. All right. I'll just go up here again to get you the date, because that one is blurred out. All right. So you have your valuation date. What date was it valued on? That date goes in there. Issue date. It was issued on the 11th. So you're going to put in the date on the 11th. And payment due date, we calculated 14 days later. So 14 calendar days, sorry. And you're going to put that information in the corner. So let's just go back here. Right. Then value of works executed. Again, it was written in the story. All you do is take it and put it in its column, right? And there is only one column here for you to put it in. So that is basically where it goes. Materials and goods on site, you put it in there. Materials and goods off site, you put it in there. You calculate everything and you get an amount. Thereafter, security adjustments, they said it was null, so it's not applicable. You just leave it like that, not applicable. Then you add your contract sum. What was your contract sum? It's again in the story. So there's a contract sum. You take that amount and you pop it into column A, the first column, and you're going to put it in there. Then that same contract sum comes into the next column where column B is. And now remember, we had an authorized adjustment to the contract value in our story. We had it at 60,000 due to CIs at the bottom. So again, we come in and we put it in there. And now our column B is filled. Cost fluctuations was 0. It goes to the end. Now we calculate from item 1 to 2.1, 2.2 at the top. We have our subtotal of 3.3 million. We will bring it down to gross amount certified, right? And after that, we have to have less previous amount certified. Where do we get this information of previous amount certified? Again, we get it from our stories of the previous amount certified, which was here in the storyline of 2 million. So we pop that information in there, and then we take the 3 million minus its 2 million, and then we get our net amount certified. And that is how we get our current valuation in column D. All other information, if there was nothing in the story, it remains null. Coming to point 12.0 by subtotal, we are going to take the current contract sum, column A, 4.1, we just bring it down to subtotal. In column B, we are going to calculate now your net contract sum plus your authorized adjustments. We bring it all the way down to 12.0 in column B, and we have now increased our contract value. And then we do the same thing of calculation for column D. Now, from our subtotals of 12.0, we are going to now add our tax. Remember, all the above information was no tax in it. So now we're going to add tax. Tax is sitting at 15%. So we're going to add our tax. We're going to add our tax. And then we go down to 15.0 at the bottom. This total is including tax amounts in column A. It's including tax amounts in column B. And then this last column, column D, it's going to include your tax amount. It's coming down now. Column D's amount comes right down to 16.0 in line there. And then that's where the payment for this current valuation is going to be going to the contractor. Who does it go to? It goes to the contractor. And what currency are we using? We are South Africa, so we are using our ZAR. And then we have something here at 17.0 right at the bottom. We have a calculation. So this is for telling us the percentage of how far we are with our payments. And it's sitting at 79.65. So how do we calculate this amount? It's quite simple. The calculation is even on your payment certificate. So you'll see there, D 8.0, right? So it's telling you we are going to column D, which is this last column, and number 8.0, which ends up being our gross amount certified. So it's a gross amount certified, D0, divided by A12. So A is our first contract sum, and 12 is right here at our subtotal. So we are taking the gross amount certified divided by our subtotal, times it by 100, and it's going to give us our percentage right at the bottom. With that being said, we have the last section at the bottom of this body of this certificate, says security status, and mark each box as appropriate with a tick or a cross. So since we are sitting at above 50% in completion, we will now tick that box, and we are not at practical completion stage, so we leave it blank. We are not at final completion, so we leave that section blank. Then at the last stage, you put your name, your address if required, your signature, and remember the date here at the bottom will be the same date of the issue date that was given. Okay, so that was a brief idea of a payment certificate and how to complete it. Now, when you get your papers, this is the question, basically. And when you get a payment certificate question, it has to be filled in, okay? You can get this question in a variety of ways, as we've seen previously. It can come out straightforward to just say fill in the payment certificate, or it can come out to say there are errors in the payment certificate. You need to correct these errors. So you still need to go through all of these steps from A to Z and fill out your payment certificate in order to get the correct information. So however the question is phrased, basically you need to fill in your payment certificate. You can't just assume what it is. You can't just take guesses and guessworks, because it will impact on your paper, as well as it carries a lot of marks. Payment certificate section generally carries a lot of marks. So I really suggest that you have your payment certificate with you. You go through it. You get familiar with the types and terminologies of where things go. Always read your question also, because it might be the scenario is including these values have already included tax, and they are not saying it excluded VAT. So you need to read that, because if the, like, for example, the contract sum is including your VAT, you will now have to remove your tax amount and then carry on. In this scenario, it just so happened it's quite simple, it's straightforward, it doesn't include tax, and you can just start carrying on with your work. Okay, so I'm going to go now to SANS. So SANS generally is a paper one. It comes out in paper one. So basically, it is your building. It is your building standards. So SANS 10400 is the South African National Standards for SANS 10400 refers to the set of standards regulating building construction in South Africa, ensuring safety, efficiency, compliance with the law. The standards are part of the National Building Regulations and cover various aspects of construction and building designs. SANS 10400 is broken down into several parts, each focusing on specific areas of building regulations. So you get SANS from part A right down to part X and XA. So you get A, B, C, D, E, F, G, right till XA, right? It is imperative that candidates have a broad overview of SANS documents. And let's go through look some of the SANS. For example, in this section, I took part G. So you have to think about here, why is SANS important and how do we use it in everyday design? So this is nothing new. It's nothing that just fell out from the sky. It's things you actually work with on a daily basis if you are in practice. So for example, excavations. SANS 10400 Part G provides guidelines for the safe excavation practices to ensure stability and prevent the collapse of excavated areas or damage adjacent structures. It covers aspects such as the assessment of soil conditions, protection of excavation edges, and measures for water control. So, for example, how wide would your foundation be? Where is your ground, the ground level? So like if you see this diagram on the right, it shows you surface water shall be diverted away and prevented from running down the cut and causing erosion. And you can look at the bottom. At the bottom, temporary excavation in close proximity to a building, how it is structured, right? So then we have another one, for example, part O, lighting and ventilation. You also use daily in projects. So SANS 10400 Part O ensures that buildings have adequate natural and artificial lighting and proper ventilation. This part promotes energy efficiency, environment comfort, and air quality inside buildings, detailing requirements for window sizes, room orientation, and mechanical ventilation systems. And then you get something like this as well, like it has come out in previous papers with facilities for persons with disabilities, where they'll ask you, for example, what is the dimensions of a disabled washroom? And you'll have to say, is it, for example, 600 by 600? 1,800 by 1,800, 2,400 by 1,200, for example, and you have to just, you basically will have to use your knowledge on SANS, specifically with facilities with persons with disabilities in order to answer these type of questions, right? Then there's all different types of SANS, as you know, A, for example, A, D, H, K, O, and S. This is all as well put in the architectural guide, the PPE guide. So all of this information is there. There's nothing specific where we can say what type of question is going to come out and how it's going to be phrased. Basically, it's things you use, your common sense from your knowledge, and then you will have to answer that type of questions. But previously it came out with multiple choice, or it can come out in a scenario base, or it can come out basically in any different way. Another one which could come out also, like previously it came out in scenario type questions, was a pool gate. Also, is a pool gate, for example, required? What is the standard height of a pool gate for the locking type mechanisms of a pool gate, self-lock, all those different things. It's things you actually use, right? So all my works, what I've had, is all from references from SIA Professional Practice Handbooks, the previous SACA PPE guidelines, past papers as well. So that is the end of my presentation.
Okay, thank
Thank
you
you.
very much, Yasmin. I think, yeah, the payment certificate, as you explained, it does carry quite a lot of weight in the paper, and it is important to do it. But the thing is, because it's an open book, the information is actually there. So I think the main thing is to remain calm and to just double check what you're doing. And as you said, go through this more than once, make sure that you understand what the different components are. I think that's really quite critical. And then try not to make calculation errors that can just throw off your kind of your totals. Which shouldn't really happen, but just yeah, I guess that's more so in the fee calculations where you add up things. And then the SANS, yeah, stuff we use every day, and a lot of you would know many of those kind of questions already because you've been applying it. So it's really applied knowledge. I think do just go and review again where things are, what section is what, just so that if you get that kind of questions, you kind of just do a quick scan of everything. That's would be my my kind of suggestion. I think, Nkosi, you are our next presenter.
Sorry, I
Should
must
we?
put out just one more thing for the candidates.
Yes.
Please, guys, you have to read your questions very carefully. I can't emphasize that enough. Read your questions, understand the questions, because if you read the questions, it's one thing. If you don't understand the question, it's a whole different thing. You need to read and understand, and then make your decisions going forward. And remember, don't just willy and just pick things. Go through your payment certificates. Look at what is a contract value. Look where it goes. Look at what is a contract sum. Look where it goes. Look at price adjustments. Really go through it, because when you're going to be in the exam, you're going to feel that you're under pressure. You're going to be looking at the time for the clock. And generally, the payment certificate is the last question on the papers, as we've seen in previous exam questions. So you're going to be running out of time. Hopefully, you are not. But if you already familiarize yourself now with it, by the time you get to that question, you're already half your battle is won. And yeah, just take care. That's all I can say, and good luck.
Thank you, Yasmin. I think those are very valuable comments. Reading and also looking at the mark allocation, that's the other trick when writing any exam, so that you know that what you put in there is actually equated to what it might be marked for. Yes. Nkosi, can we continue with you? Thank you very much. Just need to unmute. Oh, maybe put it just on slideshow.
Is everybody able to see my screen?
Yes, we can. I just think you should go to a slideshow version, because at the moment we are seeing the slides on the side.
Okay, let me rectify that.
Oh, you could have just gone to slideshow then.
Oh, I went on the slideshow, but you
It
hadn't
didn't work.
confirmed
Oh, I see. Okay.
that
No,
you could see
yeah.
at the end.
Yeah, sometimes it's weird when you're sharing the screen. That's fine.
Okay, just a moment. Apologies.
No problem.
Okay, I don't know if you're able to see my screen.
Yes, perfect. You can continue.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. Good morning, everyone, to all the candidates and everyone present. My name is Nkosikona Kulu. Today, I'll be taking you through these following topics. So we'll be going through the role of SACAP. We'll be looking at CPD. We'll also be looking at the voluntary associations and statutory submissions and project record documentation. So we'll start with the role of SACAP. So SACAP, standing for the South African Council of the Architectural Profession. SACAP is the statutory body that regulates the architectural profession in South Africa. It ensures that the profession, it's practiced ethically and at a high standard, protecting the public health, safety, and the environment. SACAP then follows a few key roles. Well, one being it's the regulation of the profession standards, ensuring that all architects meet the required educational and professional standards. And it also protects the public, basically protection of the public's interest, safeguarding the public's health, safety, and appropriate design and construction practices, and also acts as a advocacy representing the profession at national and international levels. So an example of a body like SACAP is a global comparison is the Royal Institute of the British Architects, RIBA, which also regulates the professional conduct in the UK. And SACAP also performs similar duties in South Africa, and it ensures that we maintain ethic standards and align with global practices. So SACAP then follows a code for the professional conduct, and then we look at what is the importance of ethics and this code of conduct. The code ensures that architects uphold the highest standards and professionalism and integrity. And then the key principles are integrity and honesty. Architects must be truthful and transparent in their dealings. So we should ensure that we are honest and also ensure that the client is priority, and also we stand for the architectural profession as we are a true representation of the profession. And then also competence is one of the principles where we work should only be undertaken if the architect has the necessary expertise. So we should not lie and call yourself an architect when getting the title when you are not. And then confidentiality. Architects must represent the client confidentiality at all times. So the POPI Act also plays a huge role now and also in the profession. And also we should ensure that we are not sharing what we should not be sharing with others. And then social responsibility. Architects must be aware of social, environmental, and economic impact of their work. So that is just to ensure that the necessary due diligence is taken apart and the necessary information that is required to proceed with your project is taken into consideration. And then I also have an example of a recent issue in construction industry highlighted the failure to adhere to ethical standards, which led to unsafe buildings. This emphasizes the importance of integrity in the professional practice. So the code of conduct that is followed, it is the Board Notice 7 of 2021, South African Council for the Architectural Professions Code of Conduct for registered persons. And this code of conduct is conducted and established by SACAP. This code outlines ethical and professional standards to ensure that architects act with integrity and responsibility, crucial for maintaining the public trust and upholding the profession's reputation. So there are 8 rules in the code of conduct, and we'll briefly just go through them. So the 8 rules stating as follows. Rule 1, integrity. Rule 2, competency. Rule 3, honest promotion of services. Rule 4, administrative functions. Rule 5, establishment of architectural practice. Rule 6, public interest and environmental protection. And Rule 7, regulation of foreign and architectural professionals. Okay, apologies. And then we also have Rule 8, where we are speaking about the disciplinary procedures. So we'll just go one by one briefly on what those rules in the Code of Conduct entail. So Rule 1, integrity. Integrity shall take into consideration the standard of honesty and integrity that underpin this code of conduct when performing architectural work. And then competency shall discharge their duties to the employer, client, agent, associate, and the public with due skill, diligence, and competence. Rule 3, may only communicate and promote themselves and their professional services with honesty, describing both in a manner that is related only to work of the professional categories the person is registered with and represented in a practice. And then Rule 4, administrative functions shall not change the terms of appointment, including the scope of work, without written instruction or approval from the client. And then Rule 5, establishment of architectural practice. The registered principals of a practice shall display their registration certificates in a prominent place in their physical and or virtual workplace. Rule 6. When providing professional advice to a client or employer, and such advice is not accepted, inform them in writing of any consequences which may be detrimental to the health, safety, and interests of the public. And then Rule 7, regulation of foreign and architectural professionals. All foreign architectural persons must comply with the Architectural Profession Act 44 of 2000 to practice architectural lawfully in South Africa. And then we look at our last rule. Disciplinary procedures are set out in section 28 to 33 of the Act and in the investigations and disciplinary hearings and appeal procedure published. So those are our 8 rules in the Code of Conduct. And then SACAP also looks at a framework for the professional architectural fees. So we look at fee structures. So we're just looking at an overview of the roles in which SACAP plays. So they also provide fee structures for us. So SACAP provides guidelines for how architects should structure their fees, ensuring fairness and transparency. And then the key elements are fee basis, which can be determined as a percentage of construction costs or on an hourly rate. And then factor influencing fees, that looks at complexity of the project, size of the project, scope of services provided. And then an example of contemporary projects, architects working on sustainable and technologically advanced buildings, net zero energy buildings may command a higher fee due to the additional complexity and expertise required. So it's basically saying that looking at your fee, the fee structures, you will also be looking at the complexity of the project, and that determines at what fee scale and complexity your project would fall under. That then the fee, then you are then able to determine what your fee would then be using that structure and what category it would fall under. And then SACAP also looks at accreditation. What is accreditation? Accreditation refers to the formal recognition, accreditation refers to the formal recognition by SACAP or an equivalent body that is an institution or program meets certain educational standards for the training of architects. And why does this matter? Accredited institutions ensure that candidates are receiving a quality education that aligns with both local and international standards, including those outlined by the Canberra Accord. And then example of accredited institutions. In South Africa, institutions like the University of Cape Town, UCT, and the University of Witwatersrand offer accredited architectural programs that are recognized internationally, ensuring graduates are well prepared for the PPE. We'll then also look at voluntary associations. So what are voluntary associations? These are professional organizations that architects can join for additional recognition, networking, and career development. And the role of voluntary associations are advocacy, which would then represent the profession's interest at government and policy levels, and then professional development, where they offer workshop, seminars, and conferences for members to grow in their careers. And then certification and recognition, where enhance professional credibility through certifications. So an example of a voluntary association is the South African Institute of Architects, SAIA, an influential voluntary body that provides architects with continuing education opportunities, advocacy, and networking. And then what are the benefits of recognition? These associations have been vetted by SACAP to ensure they maintain high standards of professionalism and ethics. And then there are examples of some voluntary associations, being the South African Institute of Architects, SAIA, Gauteng Institute for Architecture, KIFA, South African Institute for Architectural Technologists, SIAT, and the Green Building Council, South Africa, JBCSA, a key association in promoting sustainable design, and there are many more. So when we look at it diagrammatically, the professional body being SACAP has other connecting members, being the voluntary associations, apologies, and they also then have subsidiaries, and those are indicated as followed. And then all of these are impact-driven organizations to assist the architectural profession. Okay, so the formation and the role of volunteer associations. So I just took out some key takeaways, basically, on what was presented. So the importance of SACAP's framework is understanding the SACAP's categories of registration, the code of conduct, CPD requirements, and fee structures is crucial for success. And then active engagement with voluntary associations. Joining voluntary associations can enhance your professional network and carry prospects. And then continuing education and accreditation. Stay updated through CPD and seek out accredited institutions for further study. So these are just to assist you to ensure that when you are a professional, that you are up to date and that you keep with technology and know exactly what needs to be done in certain situations that you will be faced with in practicing. And then we're also looking at the statutory submissions and project record documentation and submissions. So what is a statutory submission? So this is basically looking at submissions to the municipality. A statutory submission refers to the submission of architectural drawings, plans, and documentation required by the local authorities to gain approval for building projects. These submissions ensure that the project complies with local building codes, zoning laws, and safety regulations. And the relevance of this is a fundamental part of architectural practice in South Africa and is essential for protecting public safety and ensuring quality in design and construction. And then the statutory submission process basically the key steps are the preparations of the documents, well, then being the architectural drawings. In the architectural drawings, we're including site plans, floor plans, elevations, etc. And then engineering drawings, structural, electrical, mechanical plans, and then environmental impact assessments, if applicable, depending on your project, fire safety reports, um, submissions to local authority. The completed pack is submitted to the local authority for review. This may include submission fees, which your client would pay. Review by local authority. Local authority check if the design complies with zoning regulations, building codes, and environmental laws. I would think that as yourselves, the candidates, you have been exposed to these conditions to ensure that plans are being approved and you have a basic understanding of what the requirements are to ensure that you do comply with the building codes and municipal requirements. And then whilst the plans are at the local authority, that's where either an approval or disapproval happens. Once the local authority reviews and approves the plans, a building permit is issued. Then you are able to commence with construction. And also continuing with the stages. Revisions, if necessary. If revisions are required, the architect must modify the plans to meet the authority's requirements and resubmit. Okay. And then local authority approval procedures. Importance of compliance. Compliance ensures that the project meets local building standards and health and safety codes. It protects both the public and the architect from legal and financial liabilities. And then the current challenges that we might be facing, regulatory delays with increasing complexity in regulations and local authorities' backlogs. Architects are often facing delays in approvals. Digital submissions many local authorities are transitioning to digital platforms for submission, streaming the process, but requiring architects to adopt to new technologies. An example, in Cape Town, the city recently adopted a digital submission system for building plans, which has helped reduce approval times, but also increased the need for architects to ensure their submissions meet the digital submission guidelines. Then we briefly going to look at a CPD. So the purpose of CPD, SECAP requires architects to engage in ongoing learning to stay current with industry developments, legal changes, and technology advancements. CPD requirements. Architects must earn a set number of CPD points annually, in which we'll go through briefly. CPD points can be earned through workshops, seminars, online courses, or publishing academic papers. Example, in 2023, the green building movement gained momentum, and architects had to quickly update their skills to meet new sustainable standards in design. CPD courses were designed to help professionals keep up with environmental regulations and technologies. And then industry relevance. The Canberra Accord encourages architects to maintain a global recognized level of competence through CPD, ensuring the profession stays current both locally and internationally. And then who must undertake CPD? Persons required to undertake CPD are the following. All persons who are registered in the professional categories listed under Section 18, 1A and C of the Act, or who may be listed at a future date. Registered professionals, RPs, who are practicing abroad subject to the following: where a system of CPD is being applied in any particular country, such requirements may be accepted by the Council, provided that documentary proof of compliance with such CPD requirements is submitted, which may be in the form of certification by relevant accredited authorities in the country concerned. Should the RP wish to remain registered during the period he is abroad, or if no CPD is undertaken in terms of 2.2.1 above whilst abroad, the RP must accumulate CPD credits upon return to South Africa. In the year following his return to SA or pro rata in the remaining months of the year, the RP abroad may register for CPD courses in South Africa via e-learning. So during a 5-year cycle, every RP must obtain a minimum of 25 credits in order to qualify for renewal for registration. The RP must obtain at least 3 credits per annum, of which at least 1 credit should be obtained from Category 1. This gazette is also available free online at www.gponline.co.za. And then conditions relating to CPD and renewal of registration revised in 15/02 2017, page 3 of 10. Credits accumulated in excess of 5 during any particular year may be allocated to the subsequent years of the 5-year cycle, provided that the credits may be transferred to the next CPD cycle. And then how to get credits. There are 3 categories, being Category 1, development activities, Category 2, work-based activities, and Category 3, individual activities. Okay, here we go. So the SACAP categories of registration. So we're basically looking at registration pathways and categories of registration. So as candidates, we would have went through the process of studying, and dependent on to which level you ended your studies, it will determine what NQF level then you fall under. So if you have a national certificate with the NQF level of 5, you with basically 36 months, and apologies, once you graduate, you would need to register as a candidate. So you do a 36-month internship, monthly training records, and you would be doing a PPE level 1, paper 1 only. Then that will then qualify you to write and pass the professional practice exam. And then once that is passed, you become a professional architectural craftsperson. And then if you've got a national diploma with an NQF level of 6, and once you graduate, you would need to register as a candidate and then do 24 months internship, monthly training records, and then you then do a PPE level 2, which then involves paper 1 and 2. And then once you have written and passed the PPE exam, you become a professional architectural technologist. And then once you have a bachelor's in architectural honors, then where you fall under NQF level 8, you would then also be doing a 24-month internship under the guidance of a mentor. And you also doing monthly training records in which you submit to SACAP. And then you qualify for paper 1 and paper 2, in which you then become a professional senior architectural technologist. So that is BArch honors and a bachelor's degree. And then if you do a master's in architecture or any accredited MTech degree in architecture, you qualify for with the NQF level of 9. You do the same with a 24-month internship under a mentor. You submit monthly training records to SACAP, and then you qualify for paper 1 and paper 2. And once you write and pass the professional practice exam, you become a professional architect. And then you will then be able to practice. And then also, dependent on which category you fall under will determine the complexity of projects in which you are allowed to work on. So with the lower qualification, then you're looking at working on lower complexity of projects. And then the higher you go to medium, and then the highest being your MArch and MTech, where you have become a professional architect, where you are able to work in practice on high complexity projects. But we'll also look into more detail on what that looks like. I think Dr. Kluter will be going through that. And then identification of work under which category you fall under. The work that can be carried out depends on the category of registration. Higher categories can take on more complex and high level work. Okay, that will be all on my side. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Nkosi. I think it's an informative presentation with lots of things covered. And what we need to realize is this section is not open book. So it's stuff that you need to know when you write the exam. I think generally it's more in kind of shorter questions that these come in, or interpretation that you need to apply. For example, in the fee proposal, knowing which category falls under what and what level of complexity can that category do. We will look at that next. But it might be quite a lot of facts. And I think the other thing is, going forward, once you've passed successfully, keep in mind those CPD points you need to collect every year and make sure you do it correctly to stay compliant. And also, yeah, I think what one needs to remember once you've gone through this process of writing the exams next week and getting those great results, once you're a professional, you do carry a lot of responsibility. And I think this presentation really just reiterated that quite clearly. We're going to have a quick break. If we can reconvene at 12:30, we'll go into the last section. Svanele or Zama, if you just want to pause, and then we'll have a break till 11:30. Thanks. Good. Thank you very much. So we've made some good progress, and we're on the last stretch now. I'll just go through the IDOW, the Identification of Works framework, and how that plays out in the work that we do. Is this okay? So it's based literally on the project complexity factors, which is utility, structure, building technologies, building services, urban complexity, and occupational health and safety. These are the things that might influence what category of complexity we are dealing with. And these factors then apply to a schedule, which I'll show. It's important to note that yeah, it determines the complexity rating of building types. So it's slightly more, it's, yeah, different building types fall into different categories and might be rated differently. So I think that's the best way to explain it. Also, the complexity factors can also be used for existing buildings. I would suggest that you go and look on YouTube because there's a lot of existing PowerPoints or recordings of other people's presentations that you can access if you want to just use that way of working through the work. It helps to do it that way. So architectural skill sets are developed either through formal education system, and we looked at that, what Nkosi was explaining, the different levels of education, which is accredited by not only SACA, but actually the HUQF, which is the Higher Education Qualifications Standards Framework, and the NQF levels, which is your National Qualifications Framework levels. So it's not the architectural profession that really decided or determined at what level people are qualifying. It's the National Qualifications Framework. And I think what we need to realize when we look at this framework is to understand how privileged we are that we, as people with a 3-year degree or a diploma, you are actually able to practice as a professional. I worked in the UK. You cannot do it there. It's not the same. You literally are seen as a part 1 or a part 2 architect until you've gone through all the processes. Your hands are quite tied. What we are also privileged with is the RPL system. I personally have been on the recognition of prior learning evaluations. I've sat in those panels looking at the body of evidence that candidates would bring, which allows you to show that through your work experience since achieving your diploma or your certificate, if you're coming from a draftsperson level, through practical experience and the way that you've been engaging in the architect profession, you're able to meet the competencies, which Nkosi also went through. If you're able to prove that you are at the level through the evidence that you are showing, you can actually upgrade through the system. That's not always the best route. I think it's quite hard. If you are able in any way to further your studies, that's always the best way to do it. And then also that, as was mentioned, the various schools and institutions offering architectural educations are accredited on a regular basis. It's a very thorough process of looking at all the work, looking at the outcomes, looking at what is the level of students at a pass, and are they meeting the requirements set by SACAP, but then obviously also by the education system and the higher degrees framework. So it's a very complicated system, and I know sometimes people kind of frown upon this idea that why can't a technologist do the same work as an architect? There are very good reasons for that. And as I mentioned, there's mechanisms to improve your skills and to prove that you are able to work at a higher level. So I think that's, yeah, just as the background. So this explains that it's your project complexity and your sector competency that then combines to give you a competency level. The complexity rating, we went through this last week when I looked at the fee proposal. It's low complexity, medium complexity, and high complexity. When I looked at last week, I really just looked at it from the perspective of developing a fee. Sorry. There's noise outside my window. So this explains it. Generally, low complexity is simple buildings, uncomplicated grouping in low impact environments. You can go through it in more detail. Medium complexity just means a little bit more complicated, average level of mechanical and electrical equipment required. And then high complexity is really your very complex buildings. It may also include things like environmental sensitivity, sites that are, you're working in a conservancy area or in a game reserve, that even though the buildings might be quite simple, due to the environmental impact that those buildings have, the complexity is much higher. So there's ways of looking at this. And I know that we as a group here may represent very different ways of practicing. You might come from very small practice, you might be intending to start your own little practice, and you might be doing quite simple buildings generally. But there are those who might be working in the big companies which do all kinds of works, from airports, hospitals, all those kind of things, and they are all at the high complexity level. But then you have teams, that's the other thing. So you may be working on a high complexity level project within a bigger team. So I just wanted to show this table. And I would really encourage you to go and look at the SACUP website. I think some of our other speakers also spoke about this earlier on. I found this under the IDOW section of the SACUP website. It's a table that explains the different requirements. It explains what your NQF level is, which is the BArch is the old degree, which I had before I did my master's and then by research. Most of the older generation has the old BArch and it's at a lower NQF level, but it's still recognized to be at the same level as the new masters in terms of professional qualification. However, according to the education framework, the NQF level is lower. So that then allows you to look at kind of complexity levels. So there's A, B, C is what you will see here, high, medium, and low. You can see that the architect, the professional architect, if you've just qualified with your master's, well done, then you are able to do all those complexities. And it means you've got to do it. You're not just able to, you actually have to be proficient and take responsibility for very complex buildings. It's the responsibility that it carries is why you need to be educated correctly and kind of trained to be able to carry that responsibility. Then the senior architectural technologist, it used to be mostly the BTECs or yeah, but because we've now have the kind of 3-degree system of an honors degree, those who are qualifying with an honors degree will also be able to come in here. And here you see that there's a differentiation. It's in some categories there are only medium complexity, whereas the and others it's still the A. So there is a difference. Context and urban relationships and architectural history and theory. So historical buildings, I think, is where this comes in. And there's obviously more descriptions of this in more detail. Then the diploma level. Sorry, I've just got this bar in front of my screen, so I can't see everything. So diploma level, people who did the diploma, as well as what's not shown here is the BAS, depends on where you're studying. It's got different forms, but the basic bachelor degree falls into this category, and you will see, and I think there's a lot of people at this level. Many people do the first degree or have the diploma, they go and work for a while, and then they might go back and study further. So that is it's mostly at a medium complexity and then also a low complexity in some cases. And then an architectural draftsman generally has a 1 year of education. So they would only be able to be accommodated at the lowest level, but then obviously this enters them into the profession and slowly they might then go and study further. Just to mention, this is recently it's been changed, and I think some of the other tables show this, where the BTEC has been replaced by an advanced diploma. There's a few schools, I know UJ and CPUT, and I think NMU offers that. I'm not too sure about TUT, but that is offered. I'm not sure about the private institutions, but the diploma is offered quite widely, both by private institutions as well as the more technical universities, the old technicons, which is now generally technical universities. And some schools like UJ and NMU offer both. They offer the bachelor in architecture or the diploma in architecture. And again, it's really you may not have done that well at school, but hey, you got an architecture, so you can still enter it through a diploma, and then you can actually transition into an honors and a master's slowly. Okay, let's just move on. Why is it not? Come on. Right, so this explains it again. Just the low is obviously draftsperson can do everything. Technologists can do some high, and senior technologist. I think half my table is gone. I transferred this from somewhere else. But again, this is information that's actually taken from the SACUP website. If you are interested in this and you want to just make sure you've got all the information, there's a PDF that you can download from the website if you search for the identification of works matrix. Okay, so the other thing is just to keep in mind that those competencies that was mentioned earlier on, and I'll show that in more detail now, at the various levels of your qualification, it requires you to engage in different levels in the different competencies. So, for example, A is awareness, knowledge, understanding, and then ability. So these are different ways of working. And if we go to the next one, you will see here that at the professional architect level, things like advanced would mean that you can do most things at a very high level. However, things like structures of buildings, you might be relying more on engineers, and I think that's for all categories. We're not structural engineers. And building services and technologies, again, we rely on other people to provide more detail in that. And then also computer applications, this recognize that when you're in the role of an architect, you might just not have the capacity to be that good at computer applications. I know there are architects who are very good at that. But this just allows you, and this framework, just for those interested in pursuing our RPL route, this framework is used to evaluate the portfolios as they come in. So if you want to upgrade to the next stage, you need to kind of show that you are already doing that or capable of doing that. Okay, so this again explains the scope of the matrix. There's different building types. So this is just a way of looking at supermarkets. I think it's an extract. It's quite a lengthy document if you go into detail. This agriculture and commerce, it continues. It's a whole table with lots of things in it. And you can see how it then differentiates the kind of what you may be able to do and may not be able to do. And I see here multi-story underground car parks. We do that quite a lot at Varsity at third year and honors level, and sometimes in master's projects, and they're very hard to design. Car parks are not easy because you have column grids and that. I can see why the complexity is acknowledged here. It is actually a high complexity. All right, so that's just more, I think it would be asked in different ways within the paper. It's really generally an application of this knowledge or some short questions. I wouldn't see it's not like the payment certificate, for example, that takes up a big component of any paper. Just to move on then. So I'm not going to go through this. My colleague already did the CPD. Code of conduct's been covered. Thank you, Kosi. but fees calculation. So I did this last week, but I want to just reiterate on some things and show you, and also provide that table that came from, I don't know how many of you were in last week's session, but when Dewey was presenting the SACP architectural professional agreement with the client, I'm not sure what it's called, there's a table that's quite useful that helps us to differentiate this. So just to recap, the fee proposals are based on project complexity. We just briefly looked at that. So in this case, this describes what a low complexity building is. Go and make sure that you understand what the different complexity is so that you can apply this. This is all applied knowledge. It's not going to give you a list of buildings. Well, I haven't seen that in a paper and say which complexity is it. It's really, the exams are set in a way that you are prepared to go out there. When a client asks you a question, you can answer that. When you're in a scenario, when you're working with a client or a contractor, you are able to apply this knowledge. So this is how the exams are based. Cost-based fees is the one system. Remember, we spoke last week. There's the two ways: the cost-based fee calculations and then the time-based fee calculation. So this provides you a nice breakdown of how we establish it. I approached it in a different way last week. This gives you just a nice little framework of how to develop it. In the first instance, what is the complexity of the project? You need to understand that. Therefore, you need to know the complexity levels. Generally, the fee proposals are done in a scenario-based situation, so it will probably tell you something about the complexity. Go and look at those example questions. Then, what is the budget? And this is quite an interesting thing because from my practice experience, it's like clients don't always know what their budget are. And sometimes it's determined by the project brief. So there's a little bit of a to and fro there, but that is quite critical for this way of working because your fee is based on the cost of the project. So you need to find out how to establish it. Then once we have, and I did speak about the fee guidelines, please make sure you have the current one, the 2025 one, or whichever one is the latest. That will obviously be applied in the question paper. Make sure that you ask yourself, what is the primary fee? Work out the secondary fee and calculate the full fee. So again, go and look on YouTube. There is actually some really good presentations by other people who give you a very detailed rundown of how to do this. So this, again, if we look at this, now we're going to calculate the fee. The primary fee is in the table. In this case, we're looking at a low complexity building. So we've got a primary fee and then plus the secondary fee. So we know that we're designing a barn. It's low complexity. The budget is 500. So which of these do we go into? We're going to go onto row 2, which is here. So our primary fee will be 46393. Here it is. That's the primary fee. How do we get the budget? The secondary fee, it will be our budget, which we know is 500,000 minus column E, which is this one. So in this case, it's there, row 2. We find that figure times the percentage, which is in this. So it's all quite simple once you know where to look. So then you calculate that. You obviously first work out your secondary fee. You times it by the percentage. Make sure you know how to do percentages, and yes, you can bring a calculator into your exam, and then you get a total there. So you're calculating your secondary fees. So how do you then get to a total? Primary fee plus secondary fee, excluding VAT. So then you need to add the VAT. And we spoke about that also. We see here it's 15%. We will From what I know, understand is that we're working on the latest information, so that whatever the VAT percentage is at the moment, that will be applied in the exam. So what issues have been identified through, and remember, this is all based on the fee guidelines. The first thing is that the architectural standard services is based on work stages. Make sure you know what these percentages of these work stages are. Last week I went through this in a little bit more detail, but it's inception, you're writing the brief, you're meeting the client, you're looking at the scope, concept and viability, you're coming up with some conceptual ideas, but you're also checking the viability within the budget. Design development, you've got to go ahead on that initial concept stage and you're moving forward. You can look at how much time needs to be spent there, so the effort increases. And then documentation is what Nkosi was speaking about, that local authority approvals. Procurement is your tender stage or construction documents. The SANs actually come in very strongly in 4. And stage 4, both 4.1 and 2. Because for documentation, to get local authority approval, you need to be applying those SANS regulations very strictly, as we know, because we've all been there for 2 years now. And then construction phase is where you apply the information that's been discussed this morning in the JBCC. Some of it happens during procurement because to start the construction phase, you have to appoint a contractor. So you will be signing that JBCC agreement. You will be appointed at the principal agent or not. As the principal agent or not, you might not be that. Someone else might take that role. And then you will do your regular monthly, or depending on the increments that's required, but the interim payment certificates that we just went through now. And that's all in the open book because it is really a little bit more complex. It's stuff that you wouldn't necessarily just know offhand. Building regulations, gosh, I learned stuff in third year in the 90s. I still remember my fire regs because it's so critical. It's like imprinted in your head. So make sure you get those basic things like disabled toilet dimensions. You should be able to wake up at night and give those dimensions because it's critical. You need to know them. And then the last is just the closeout. That's where we hand over building and all of that. So the percentage is really low. But for the fee proposal, these percentages are critical. Keep them in mind. Then we look at this really handy table that I grabbed from that fee. Again, I went onto the SACCUP website. I searched client architect agreement, SACCUP, or architectural or professional agreements, client agreement. And this is what I found on that document. So make sure you go and memorize these different percentages because we went through them last week. It's very nicely set out in the guide, which from what I understand has been shared with all of you. I did give that last week again. So for additions and alterations, because they're always more complex, 30% is added. For restoration and subject to heritage legislation, 40% is added. Repeat buildings, maximum reduction of 35% for stages 1 to 4 only, because once you go to site, if you're repeating the same building, you're going to have to be paid for the full services. And that's, if it's a separate contract, there's actually no reduction. I guess you can, again, just a reminder, because the SACCUP fee guidelines is guidelines. And I explained last week, it's set up based on a very kind of standard size practice doing normal work. There's no way that we can accommodate with one fee guideline all the different ways that people practice. So therefore, if you have been working with a client and you're actually literally repeating the same building, I'm sure you can negotiate. If you're not redesigning it, if you just adjusting it to suit a different site, I would suggest that you just negotiate a lower fee, because you're not going to go through the full process in the full scope. But these are things you will learn through this process. In an incomplete work of another architectural professional, you may have to take over from someone else for whatever reason. So that's plus 25% for the work stages remaining. And the reason for this is that things could have been decided. Say you are appointed at stage 4.2. So now you suddenly have to take over the tender stage, but you don't have all that knowledge of why things were done in a certain way. And then you may also find that things don't work that well, or for whatever reason. So there is a complexity added because you were not on board from the start, and that is accounted by the 25%. Extension of initial contract period by more than 10%, so then hourly rate after 10% of contract period is exceeded. Termination of contract, it's 10% for the stage in which appointment is terminated. So if your appointment is terminated in stage 4.1, you are only paid for that 10% plus 10% for that specific stage. You cannot go and bill him for 4.2, 5, and 6, or her, the company. Amendment to design and or specification. So generally, this is kind of additional services. Things are changing. There's a reduction of the construction costs, so you need to align that, and then it's additional work. Changes generally become additional work, and then additional services, please, you need to specify. So there's a list in the fee guideline of all the different types of additional services. For example, we've got heritage buildings here at the top, but if you have to do a MARFA application to get approval for your heritage building, that would be an additional service, because yes, you're working, the standard services will be doing the design work and all the normal services of, applying for local authority, but that local authority is not a MARFA. So MARFA is an additional service that you are providing. So that's a good example of explaining that. Okay. So again, then time-based fees, we didn't go into this in a lot of detail last year, but there is an example. This is extracted. I'm not going to go into it all because I think we're slowly running out of time. So please go through the professional practice exam guideline. This is the one for 2024. I see you've got the latest one, 2025 one. And go and look through this. It explains very well how you calculate the time based on, and you can see how it's provided. It provides you with annual cost of employment, and then you fill in these details. So information is provided. You are then required to add in the additional information, do the calculations. And as I said with the when Yasmin was dealing with the payment certificate, please double check your numbers. We are architects. I said it last week. Numbers are not always, or well, I guess we can do numbers in terms of measurements and that, but in terms of working with financial statements and working out calculations, we're not QSs and we're not accountants. So the last thing you want is to make errors. So please make sure that you do figure that one out. And then this explains how it's calculated in more detail. And let's just see what this one was. I can't remember. So it's the specific person, and this gives you the total fee based on that whole team. And you saw it was a massive team. This is definitely not just one person. It's really a lot of different people working on this project at various levels. And even your admin and office manager has to be paid. So it's very comprehensive. But again, it's a guideline. So you will look at where you placed. If you in Joburg compared to Cape Town compared to Durban, it might be different because salaries are different. So again, it's a guideline, but I would assume for the purposes of the exam, you would be using the guideline. I'm more talking about going forward. Right, and that's it. I'm not going to go through companies and tax. I think we did that last week. Right. So I'm going to stop sharing this. Just get my bar. No, I have stopped sharing. Sorry. Can you still see the screen, Yasmin? Oh no, there's my stop sharing. Sorry, I got confused. So this brings us to the end of today's presentation. But I see there's a lot of questions in the chat. It's sitting, or on the Q&A, it's sitting at 51, which is a lot. So I'm going to ask our colleagues, Zamas, Vanele, if you want to just handle this stage. I know that you said there was a particular question for Yasmin on the payment certificate. Should we do that first?
Yes, Doctor. I think there are some technical questions here that are not necessarily about the logistics of the exam. They're just technical
Okay.
in nature. There's also a question about the percentage that is applicable. I remember last week we did say that it is the current one of 15%, but
Yeah.
there's just a couple of them there that really have more to do with the technical
content.
side of things, the content of the
Yeah.
exam. Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, let's handle that then first. So how will we do this? Do you want to allow people to ask their questions, or should we use the chat?
I think we can go through the chat.
Okay,
I think we can
to
go through
start
the chat.
with. Okay.
Okay. I'll just scroll through to check.
Or if you can, and then we can just look. I'll also have a look.
Yes, because I think panelists are able to check those questions and type answers. Excuse me.
Okay, I see here there's a question here. Mr. Kutzer, he's unfortunately had to attend a function, so he's not here. Could there be any potential claim or delay or similar that is not within the JBCC or covered within the clauses? And if so, how would we be resolved? I think the clauses are quite comprehensive. Yasmin, if you want to also come in here, you're very welcome. The clauses are quite comprehensive and should deal with most of those issues. But there's also the mediation and arbitration routes if there are really some other things outside. Yasmin, any response there?
Generally, everything will be in accordance with the JBCC. Even in reality, whenever we do anything, it is with a contract, and most likely it is the JBCC. But specifically for this examination, from what we know of previous exam papers, and I don't think there'll be much deviation, anything always falls back onto the JBCC with the different clauses. Now it is the candidate's responsibility to actually know and familiarize themselves with the JBCC to know under which sections or which clauses that scenario is. It might not only be on a specific clause, like it could be clause number 5, or it could be under clause 10, or it can be linking between 2 clauses or 3 clauses. So you have to know the JBCC, and that's why it's an open book test. You might think an open book test is easy, but it's actually difficult. That's why it is open book, because you're going to have to go through the contracts. You have to go through and delve in scenarios. But what I can just advise is always you have your fallback on, because a lot of you are already in practice, you already experience scenarios on site with contractors, etc. So always just fall back on what you think the correct course would be, and then you can search for those clauses in the JBCC and then apply it. to the question. I hope I answered the question.
I think that's quite clear. Yasmin, I see here's another one. If there was security adjustments applicable, would that be subtracted percentage to determine the net contract sum?
Sorry, say that again.
If there was security adjustments applicable, would that be subtracted, and then they've put in brackets the percentage sign, to determine the net contract sum?
Yeah, so your adjustments will always change your column B, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it'll always change. Whether it's in additions or subtractions, that will determine now. So if you're adding something on, it'll be additions. If you are taking out something, it's just saying you don't want a specific wall in a place anymore, and you just so that cost is now gone away. So it'll be a subtraction. So it will change your contract.
So thank you for that. I think that should explain that. And then there are a few variations of payment certificates with different layouts. Will this payment certificate variation be the one to focus on? I think he was saying is the one that you use, the one that's used.
I'm not actually aware of other different type of payment certificate. I don't know if somebody else can come in. I'm aware of this one because this is what you find in the JBCC contract.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm
So
also
this
not
is
aware
the
of.
one we're gonna be working with, and you should, I would say, familiarize yourself with this one. Yeah, that's correct.
And then there's been a lot of questions about bringing notes, and I think it's been answered by our colleagues. So this one again, given that we have written notes, can we have a filled out payment certificate with us in paper 2? I
No,
think
you won't be able to be allowed any filled out payment certificates or anything. It'll have to be a blank document from what I know from previous exams. Everything is blank, so you can't have it already filled out.
but you can have
But
notes. Yeah, you
as
can have
far
your
as
own
the
notes.
notes and things go, also I think there's a limit to a certain type of notes. Like the notes that I know is from previous papers, but the SACA team can actually give more feedback on that, is the notes that is stipulated by SACA, meaning those documents like the JBCC contracts and stuff, not your own personal thing that you are writing on.
Yasmin, I think that's been clarified from the
Yeah.
Education Committee that it's an open book and you can bring your own notes.
Oh, okay. So then maybe
Yeah.
it's changed
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
I'm just talking from previous my own, I think. So they
Yeah.
can clarify that, yes.
Yeah, I think that's been clarified in the chat, but Svanele and Zama, you can also just again confirm that it's printed documents, the ones that SACA provided, your own notes, nothing on another device. I think that's the most critical bit that Mr. Minetti clarified when he came in at the start, for those who may have joined late. But you can reiterate that at the end. I'm just looking for anything else. Where can we get the latest SANS 10400? Example part T1 can find 2011 and latest is 2024. Surely that's available. I'm not sure. Anyone, Kosi or Yasmin, do you know?
Not that I'm aware of.
No.
I'm
Kosi?
not aware of.
Yeah. I
But
actually
again,
don't.
these are things you use in your offices.
Mm,
You use it in your office, basically, like wherever you are practicing or learning from. Well, you would have had to be in an office to be able to do your monthly
exactly.
training record. So, uh, it's not like what can I say? We're testing you on or you're being tested on the entire sense. It's what you use daily.
Yeah.
It's what you use. Common things that is being used.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Commonly used. It's not going to be like, let's see how we can catch you out. I don't think that's what the the exams are about. It's really just you've been in an office for 2 years, you've had a mentor who overseed your work. And if you feel uncertain, that's the people I guess you can also ask about. Then there's here on, will we be able to use Excel on our PCs or for calcs? No, I don't think so. Not Excel. Just use a calculator, or I think you can use the calculator on the actual laptop or something they're writing on. That would make sense. Ideally, just bring a separate calculator. Here's another payment certificate one for you, Yasmin. Will the rate of VAT be stipulated as it would be in a normal JBCC contract document?
Sorry, what rate?
VAT,
VAT.
yeah.
Well, you should know what VAT is.
Yeah.
Nothing is going to be given or not given. I'm not sure, but you should know what the local VAT, our current VAT, is. So if you don't know, you got a chance to start looking it up.
Okay, so here it's asking a question about the payment certificates, if it's an editable PDF or Excel, or how will it be presented? I don't know. I think it's part of the paper that you fill in. I'm sure it will be
I,
easy.
I'm not sure how it will be
I don't think
given
it's
out.
Excel. I think it's a PDF document. You have to do the calculations. It's not going to be formatted so that it does happen for you. So here's a question about language. Unfortunately, as far as I know, the paper cannot be translated into all our 12 national languages, because we also have the 11 spoken languages, and then we have sign language. So sorry for that, but Swanele, it's in English, am I right?
Yes, yes, doctor. It is English.
Yeah.
The exam
I
is
think,
in English
yeah,
language to
let's just be
accommodate everyone.
realistic. I think being realistic is just the key here. Our
Yes,
country have many languages, and we can only accommodate one, the main one.
yes.
Okay, and then people are asking about the printing. We are terribly sorry that other people were dishonest, because they ruined it for everyone else, and now you have to print your work. We are sorry about that, and we know I also thought about the additional cost, but this is the unfortunate reality of when people cheat. In the past, people had to go to centers to write there, so I think it's already an advantage that you don't need to go. And then you still had to have it. When I wrote, everything had to be physical. And I think here, just be realistic. You can't print everything. You really cannot. You can only print what you're going to use, what's reasonable. There's a lot of application. There's a lot of kind of things that people use on a daily basis. Again, ask the office, do they have a copy? Can you use that? Okay, let's ask, because I don't see any examples in the past papers. I'm not sure about what examples. Sitapo, maybe just explain. Okay, it's again about the format of the payment certificate. I do not have an answer for that, but there is examples of payment certificates in previous papers, right, Yasmin? There is. And I think it's a document that you fill in. I don't think it's going to be Excel.
No, I think the past few years all had payment certificate questions. I don't know how it's going to be coming out. I'm not sure, but it's not going to be an Excel, that's for sure. It'll oh well, I don't know. I don't know for sure, but maybe the SACA team can give insight on how it's going to be presented in paper.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so here, hi team. I mean, are all answers we gave supposed to be in our own words? No, I think Yasmin spoke about this. Sometimes it says give a definition. It would say in your own words, put it that way. if it's not saying in your own words and you ask to give a definition, then it would mean that you have to use the words from, and especially in the open book, that comes directly from the document. For the closed book paper 1, it won't be necessarily exactly what is stated in the document, because you might phrase it slightly differently, but as long as the meaning is the same. Yasmin, is that correct? That makes sense, eh? Here's another, Yasmin, is another one for you.
Yes, that makes sense.
So if it says in your own words in paper 2, you do in your own words. Otherwise, you use what you found in the documents. Paper 1, you don't have open book, so you won't be able to exactly necessarily write it the same. Okay, with regards to JBCC payment certificate, would there be any other terminology that would apply to value of works and authorized adjustments? I saw an example in October, paper 2, 2023, the mention of preliminaries. In addition, I'm sure these terms would reflect in JBCC that we could check. Yasmin, did you get that?
Yeah, the prelims, all of that, it's all in the JVCC contract. You have to go through all your definitions, and that's why I put the definitions before I even went into the payment certificate, because you have to understand the JVCC document. You have to understand the definitions. So when you're getting to your payment certificate, you understand what is happening. So you have to go to the definitions of contract value and see and understand what it is. Go through to cost fluctuation. It's all there in the JBCC. It is an open book. Read it and understand it. And I think that's the most important thing is you can read something and you can do it without understanding. It's not going to help you. You need to understand it. And I think that is the key. So that's why you need to get familiar with the whole document.
Okay, then I think there's another, this is just for our SACP team to send any information that they haven't sent out. Arrangement, there's been quite a few questions about people trying to write on sites. Tablets, no, they're not. Oh, will these tables showing the secondary fee percentages for the different complexities be provided as an appendix in the exam? Yasmin, I think, would you know? I'm sorry, I've not looked at it in that much detail, the past papers.
No, I'm not aware.
They're not. You're not aware.
No, I'm not aware.
I think you can't be expected to use a particular complexity level if that information is not provided. You will never be able to memorize it. So I think we can assume that it is in the, yeah, it's not something you can remember offhand. So it will have to be provided. Okay, then there's cameras again. On the previous topic, how do you upgrade from an architectural technologist to a senior architectural? I say that I have a BTech degree, but registered SACP National with my, so I'm writing PPE. I think once you've written your PPE and you now have your BTech, you must contact SACP registration office and they will be able to assist you. New fee guideline says 20% for termination. So do we refer to your slide or that? No, you use the latest fee guideline. That was just a document I found online which provides a table. Please go and look at the updated percentages, please. It's a good thing you point that out because when I was reading it, I thought that's very little. So yes, again, we used the latest fee guideline. That was just a document I found. And
Doctor,
yes,
apologies for cutting you. I just want to give a bit of insight regarding the comment regarding the upgrading. So with regards to the upgrades, there's a process in which you follow at SACAP in which it's basically an application where there is a fee that you'd need to pay, in a sense, to go through that process. And what you then submit is the documents that you're asked to fill in, and then once those documents are submitted, you also submit a portfolio in which there is also an interview that takes place, in which you need to attend and also have proof of work that you have worked on with your name on it, to ensure that you are the person who worked on the project. And from there, you are able to, through the interview and portfolio of works, able to, well, try and prove that you are eligible to be able to go for, well, show that you are eligible for an upgrade, basically. And then it's highly also dependent on what you currently have as a qualification. And once proven, then you are able to, or declined, and then you're also given reasons why or where you should improve. Just in a nutshell.
Thank you, Nkosi. I think that's quite nice and detailed. Maybe I misread this. I thought it was someone who's in the meantime done the other qualification. Some of my students do that. While they're busy studying, they actually write the PPE exams. So when they then qualify, they can upgrade. And that's a simple process, because you just send your certificate that your proof of your new qualification, and it's a small fee just to upgrade to your correct qualification. The one you're describing is quite correct. That's for the RPL process, and it is more comprehensive and more detailed. Yeah. I'm
That's
not sure
correct.
which one they asked for. I
Yeah,
can't
true.
remember anymore. I've been going through all these. There's lots of questions here. Would we just require JBCC principal building agreement? I think that was answered last week, that you need to have all of them, because the exam could be referring to any. I don't think it's specific to the PBA. Again, another one for fees. I see that table presented indicated, okay, complete work. All right, so please look at the latest document for the latest fee guidelines on those percentages. I've been made aware, and I apologize for that. It is an outdated document then, but I think having a table to study from will be helpful. So go and look at that table, please correct it, or create your own, and you can just remember what those percentages are. The SACCUP guideline document actually has filled out payment certificates, though, so we take that in according to my knowledge. I'm a bit confused by this. Payment certificates. I think we need to get Mr. Visser to just explain his question later on. Okay, there's still a lot of unclarity about the notes. I'm going to leave our SACCUP colleagues to just confirm that at the end. I have to be leaving quite soon now. Unfortunately, I've just got another commitment. Yeah, I think it's mostly logistical. There might be a few others. Colleagues, if you can please, unfortunately, excuse me, I have another commitment. Yasmin and Kosi, if you can just stay on a little bit longer and maybe just scroll through the chat. I was at around, I'll just tell you where I stopped looking, where I'm going to stop. The last one that I looked at was Ben Visser, 12 minutes past 12 p.m. It is the Q&A. If you open that box, if you can scroll down to that one and then just go through it. But all the technical questions, obviously, would need to go to our SACCUP colleagues. Is that
Okay,
okay?
I'll take a few until about 12:30, and then I'll also have to
Yeah,
leave,
our time is
unfortunately.
limited.
So
And then what I think we
yeah.
can agree, if candidates have particular questions, they can email SACP and the questions can be sent to us if needed. I guess that's the one way to deal with it. Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Clutter.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much for giving us an opportunity to present to all of you, and all the best for the exam. Gosh, I hope it goes very well. I know it's nerve-wracking, but if you study, you'll be okay.
Okay, so Ramstein, I'm gonna get to your question. Can you at least tell us which parts of the SANS will be asked in the test so that we don't have to print all the parts? Surely that would be okay. Unfortunately, we don't know what is coming out in the exam paper. Your guess is as good as ours, so you're gonna have to have all of the SANS or fall back on your knowledge. Because this is a paper one. Remember, SANS is generally in paper one and it's a closed book test. So you're not going to be having those documents in front of you. Or well, you shouldn't be having those documents in front of you. You can view the SANS for, SACP, Alexandra actually responded here to say you can view the SANS 400 documents from SACP's website. So it is there apparently. You'll just have to go in and confirm. Is a principal building agreement edition 5.0 the latest document that we can use to reference in paper 2? You'll have to go through. I can't confirm this. So you're gonna have to go through and check which is the latest one. Please note that if there is no VA location available in Durban to write in person, keep us what reserved to write in Sandton. This you'll have to deal with our SACP team. They can tell you about your location for writing the exam paper. Okay, Mohammed also responded to say you can find the SANS document on SACP's website. On the question of payment certificate, the question was more regarding security adjustment. If it was applicable, would it be subtracted? Your security adjustment is of the security for the entire project. The security adjustment will only come into effect towards the end of your whole contract period. So normally in the interim, you're not going to be changing anything. Is there somewhere we can provide feedback on SACP's administration for the whole PPE process? It has been very confusing. Again, you'll have to refer to SACP for this and for the whole PPE process. Regarding the language, are we allowed to use Google Translate on the tablet or other electronic devices? Again, the SACP committee will have to respond to this type of question. So maybe if you drop them an email and ask them, because you would rather find out all your information before actually sitting for the exam and being allowed to use the devices. Due to the change in open book exam format that we can no longer use computer PDF, which is a much faster way to search the information, can there be a consideration for increase in the time allowed for the exam? You'll have to drop SACP an email for that as well. I'm going to go through the last two questions and then it will be time to close off. Can we get a visual diagram of how to set up for the exam as requested in the last week Saturday session? Again, this is for SACP team. Where might we find the JVCC guide and JVCC contract itself? Do we need to purchase one? If I'm not mistaken, I think SACP did previously issue to candidates a education version. There is an education version available, so maybe if you email them and try requesting one, you should be getting the JVCC education version. I'm going to close it off for there for now. Any other questions? I'm sure you can just forward them to SACAP, and if required, they can always email it to us, and we can then respond back to you at a later stage. Anything from you, Nkosi?
No, thank you, Yasmin. I think you've covered everything, especially with the questions. I think once SACAP has also just gone through the general questions, then regarding specifically to the formalities of the exam and what needs to happen, they will be able to then answer that via email. So I think that's critical that those questions are sent to SACAP. And then if there's any that we would need to answer, then they would forward that, and we'd ensure that we do give them feedback, and that should be shared with the candidates who you've asked. Yeah. But other than that, it's more good luck to everyone. You've come so far. It's the last stretch. Don't give up. Read the questions carefully and answer with your experience and what you've gone through in preparation with the exam. And yeah, that's all on my end. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you as well. All the best for your examination. Goodbye from my side.
Thank you, colleagues. Colleagues, there was a request to prepare a demonstration of how the second device should be located, and how it should be set up to display the workspace or the workstation of the candidate during the exam. So this is how it should typically look like. You can see that there is a gentleman here who is working on this laptop. So let's assume that this is the laptop that they will be using to attend to the exam. And then this second laptop over here is the one that is used now to observe the happenings on this workspace here. So that is just a brief demonstration of how the second laptop or the second device should be placed. That is how it should look like. There was a question regarding people who are outside of let me say outside of Gauteng, who want to be assisted with a venue. The request is that you send your particulars and your area, your geographical location to zama.mzamo@sakapsa.com, indicating where you are, and then SACAP will liaise with the various VAs in your areas of location. If this cannot work, you will be required to attend from your private space and attend the exam from your private space. But there will be an attempt to consult and contact VAs to see if they cannot assist. There was another question regarding the amount of time that will be permitted in the exam. The exam is scheduled to take 180 hours. That should be, I mean, 180 minutes, sorry. That should be 3 hours. However, taking into account that there might be technical glitches here and there, the invigilator will take care of you with regards to how much more time they give you. Obviously, it will be reasonable depending on the circumstances surrounding the exam. But what we can guarantee you is that the exam will not be short of 180 minutes. So no one will complain that the exam took a shorter time than scheduled. So the minimum is 180, and then if there are considerations to be made, the invigilator will take care of you. Mzamo, anything else maybe that you want to share with the colleagues?
Okay, thank you, the leader, and hello to everyone in the meeting. Okay, mine is because most of the questions which were asked were already answered by the colleagues. Well, what I can add is just another emphasis on those who have not already paid the 2,377 for writing the exam. If you know that you haven't yet paid that fee, please do pay that fee, or you can write me an email so I can just assist you. Because no one will be allowed to write the exam without having paid the fee. But if they are, and then with regard to the recording of this webinar, I will get the recordings and I will share it with you as soon as I have it, either by today or by tomorrow or Monday morning. But I will share it with you as soon as I have it. Thank you.
Zamo. There is another issue that is raised about the use of secondary devices. Dr. Klute did touch on it, but I think I must reiterate because I could see on the questions there, people want to start a debate and they want to reason, and they are questioning the logic behind it. Look, colleagues, the fact of the matter is SACAP did pick up that some candidates, they cheat during the exam. They make use of the internet, they Google stuff there, they use chat GPT and all of those things. So in a bid to minimize the risk of getting this exam questionable, so to say, SACAP took a decision because SACAP, as the regulator, SACAP has got the powers to make decisions to ensure that they preserve the integrity of the exam. They decided that no, devices will no longer be allowed because of the problem of cheating. It is true that some of you are innocent. You don't have ideas of cheating. You have never cheated, but the risk is looming large there that cheating might take place. So that is where it is coming from. There is also another question regarding the issue of notes. What has been said was the material that SACAP allows to come in there. You are allowed to make highlights there as you prepare. Obviously, as you prepare for an exam, you can make your own rough sketches on the document. That is natural when one prepares for an exam. Someone is arguing to say if one is allowed to make sketches and small notes on the documentation provided, why are they not allowed to bring extra pages of notes into the exam? I just want to kindly request us not to engage on a debate there to understand the rationale behind this, because we are likely not going to get the answers that we need today because the decision makers are not here. They are not a part of us. So if we are asking what is the difference between making notes on the documentation provided versus making your own notes somewhere else separate and bring them in here, I'm saying that debate is not going to be worth anybody's while because we might not give you the answers right away. So let us just be cautious of that. Let us try to do as we have been requested. Arrive in the exam venue just before 8 so that you can set up properly. If you are writing somewhere else, make sure that you are properly seated, getting ready to write the exam. So from 8 you'll be assisted. I think that's just about it on the exam side. I don't know, Mzamo, if there's anything else.
No, thank you, leader. No, you've said it all. You were clear with the notes question, and I think everyone now is clear with the notes section. No, I'm also satisfied, leader. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Zama. Just one last one, colleagues. The platform that is being used to write the exam, exam.net, it is capable of picking up when candidates are opening other sites to try and maybe get answers. It is capable of picking that up. So if that happens, it might kick you out of the exam, and you will need to explain what was happening there. So just try to be careful. Try to avoid the temptation of seeking answers from other websites there. This platform is designed to keep you on that website only. The moment you go out to access something else, it shows, and it reports that there is a likelihood that cheating is taking place. So just be cautious and take care not to go to other sites whilst you are writing the exam. Obviously, during the exam, you might require to go to the bathroom. You just make a note there that you are stepping out a bit to go to the bathroom, and then you come back so that the invigilators can see that there was no activity on your laptop because you had stepped out to go to the bathroom. There shouldn't be an assumption that probably you stepped out of the room to go and read some notes somewhere else. So just be careful around that issue as well. Colleagues, this webinar was scheduled to end just before 1. So I'm not sure if there's anything else that we can discuss at this point. Oh yeah, there is a request. There is a request for this recording to be made available. I think Mzamo, the last one was posted on YouTube, but also it can be sent individually via email if people make such requests. Am I correct, Zama?
Yes, the leader. The first one was shared on YouTube. I'm not sure if that will be the same, but it will be the same because I'm thinking Monday. Monday is far, but I'm not sure if we can get the recordings now. And if I can have the recording, I would gladly share it with everyone through email.
Okay. No, thank you for that, Mr. Mzamo. Thank you so much. Colleagues, I think we have come to an end of our session. Any additional questions, we can drop them via email. We'll try our best to attend to them, and we can just wish you good luck for the exam. I see Mr. Ngoskona Kulu, you are still here. Thank you so much, my good sir, for participating in this important event, and all the best to our candidates.
No, thank you so much. Thank you, SACAP team, also for being there to be our assistants. We are grateful, and yeah, good luck to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much. But that's it then, guys. Cheers. Till next time.
Thank you.